3, 2, 1. We are live, Nick. Are you pumped?
Oh, I've been pumped for this all day.
Okay.
It's not often you get to see a battle for the world number one. It happens so rarely in tennis.
What did you make of I saw you tweet to me the Pam Shriver comment about Alcaraz limping. Does there seem to be any more substance to that suggestion?
Um, I don't know. I'd have to see. To be honest, a limp is a limp when you're not playing tennis. Let's see what happens when the adrenaline kicks in and the match starts.
Yeah.
But just more of an FYI, possibly could decide the direction of the match. Oh,
Yeah.
good first serve from Ruud.
Good first serve there from Ruud, I agree. 15 love now for the Norwegian. That's a nice start for him. We remember, of course, how hi Mark, by the way, it's nice to have you on board. We remember how Ruud kind of started fairly nervously and tentatively that French Open final this year against Rafa Nadal. Do you expect him to be equally nervous today or a bit more relaxed?
I think be more relaxed. I mean, he looks a lot more relaxed, judging by the
Yeah,
way these first couple of points are going. I think
yeah.
it's the second one. He knows he's got a good chance. He's been here before. There will be nerves, but I don't think it's going to be as much as the French.
Right, exactly. I mean, really, going into that French Open final, he was obviously a big underdog. Today, I mean, who are you tipping to win, by the way?
Alcaraz,
Yeah, me too. In 3, 4, or 5?
four, I think. I think Ruud is playing well enough that he'll get a set. I think
Yeah,
Alcaraz may dip a little bit when history comes calling. So,
yeah.
yeah, I'm expecting to go four.
I mean, listen, much has been made of Alcaraz's path as Alcaraz gets himself on the board there at 30-15, and that's understandable. 3 5-set matches in a row may take its toll if it was to go to a fifth set today. I've been fairly dismissive of that notion in previous rounds, like when it was 1 and then 2 and then a third 5-set in a row. But I do think it might play out, particularly if that limp is an issue. As Casper Ruud goes long there, so it's 30 all. Interestingly, Alcaraz, by the way, won the toss but chose to receive. Does that surprise you?
No, it doesn't. Actually, I think it's a smart move in a slam final. The nerves are going to be with the person surfing in the first game. You've got a little bit more time to roll up in the ground strokes. Plus, Alcaraz is an elite returner, so I think it's putting the
Yeah,
pressure on Ruud to open.
yeah.
And I think Alcaraz is clutch enough to be confident if it gets tight at the end of a set.
Yeah. And if memory serves me correctly, in that epic match against Sinner, he actually did take, and that's an excellent return there from Alcaraz. And he's got the points, he's got a break point. Yeah, that epic match against Sinner in the quarterfinal, he did take a 2-love lead in that first set, and ultimately it ended up helping him to go on to win that set. Of course, a lot of tennis happened between then and what happened afterwards. But yeah, so 5 sets, obviously that match. I think a lot of people are suggesting Alcaraz in 4. How can Casper Ruud win today?
How can Casper Ruud win? Well, if even taking out any dips from Alcaraz, um, because I think that's the first obvious thing is Alcaraz isn't quite his best, whether the movement is off or whether he misses some shots he goes for. That's going to on the big moments. That's probably more likely in terms of what Ruud can do positively. He's just got to serve his best.
Yeah,
I think he's got to get that forehand into play as much as possible. There's not much wrong with his backhand, but it's not as effective as the forehand.
agreed.
As we see there in the rally, as Alcaraz goes long, that was a really good forehand up the line from Ruud, kind of exemplifying my point.
Yeah.
There wasn't much Alcaraz could. It would have been an amazing get from Alcaraz to get that back in place. So I think he needs the 1-2 today to work really well.
Interestingly, service games won. Casper Ruud is at 88% in this tournament, which I say is pretty impressive, bearing in mind. By the way, sorry, this is Ruud. I don't know if I said Alcaraz then. Casper Ruud is at 88% service games won. Something that really has impressed me is Ruud serving, particularly against Khachanov in the previous round. I don't know if his service speeds are up, but it does seem like he's serving better than ever. As I see him, as I say that, I think he's just done a double fault there. So it's advantage Alcaraz again to get a second break point in this first game. But yeah, Ruud's serve seems to be a bit better than it used to be. His backhand seems to be certainly not a weakness anymore, and his forehand is as good as ever. That being said, I have gone for Alcaraz, and he's got a break point here, so be interesting to see if he can get himself on the board pretty early on, the Spaniard.
yeah, see what happens. So forehand from Ruud cross court, forehand Alcaraz cross court. They're going forehand to forehand at the minute. Backhand up the line, Alcaraz, forehand Ruud, forehand Alcaraz up the line, forehand Ruud inside out, backhand Alcaraz into the net. So that was a really good rally from Ruud from both players, really. And that's going to be one of the things to watch in this match that I'm looking forward to is when they're both on, they could be both really explosive. And that so far we're seeing glimmers of that
Yeah, right.
already. Yeah, at the minute I'm kind of saying at the minute that it's kind of down early on in the match as to be expected. They're not quite warmed up yet. It's coming down to who's going to break down or who can force the other to break down rather than out hitting their opponent.
Yeah, I
Lovely
agree.
net play from Ruud.
Yeah, and he brings up game point now, Casper Ruud, so it's his advantage. I think I'm a couple of seconds ahead of you with my
Yeah, you are.
ESPN feed. Yeah. But yeah, I think basically it seems to be the average prediction that I've heard, or the prediction I seem to have heard most often, is Alcaraz in four. I don't think anyone would be amazed if Casper Ruud won, for example, in some fashion or another. Of course, don't forget, Alcaraz this year has not lost a single match in straight sets. In other words, every single match he's played, it's been close, let's say, whether it be 4 or 5 sets at a major or 3 sets elsewhere, which is phenomenal.
It is, and it goes to show his fighting spirit. I think one of the things that's really caught our attention is Alcaraz has this tenacity. He doesn't give up. He's incredibly clutch in the big moments. He will raise his game when he's down. A classic example being against Alex de Minaur in the Barcelona semi-final, where he saved match point with an incredible running passing shot
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was almost behind him. I mean, he was overran it. It was incredible. And to be honest, that kind of mentality I haven't seen from anyone else other than the big three.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so Casper Ruud is held. That's a big hold for him. I mean, going a breakdown this early on wouldn't be useful for him, and it's good for him to hold there. Yeah, by the way, just talking about their runs to the final, a lot has been made of Alcaraz's run, but don't forget, it was a while ago now, but Casper Ruud was pushed to 5 sets by Tommy Paul. I had a feeling he might go out that day. As it turned out, Tommy Paul was in the midst of a bunch of 5-set matches. I think that was his third in a row. It was in the third round.
Yeah.
And he ran out of steam in the 5th set, and Casper Ruud ran out 6-love. Also, Casper Ruud, I think he lost the opening set to Van Rijthoven in an early round as well. So it wasn't plain sailing for him at the beginning of the tournament. It's just because I think in the last 2 rounds, the quarterfinals and the semifinals, they were straight set wins for him. So if he was going to start to feel it, he would have sort of done so in the previous rounds. Now he's had 2 back-to-back straight sets wins, and that one over Berrettini. Did you see the one over Berrettini, by the way?
I did. It was incredibly impressive from Ruud to the way he kind of dominated for the first set and 3 quarters. He was just a better player by miles, and yeah, that performance against Berrettini was really good. He did tighten up quite a lot near the end, which kind of put a dampener on it a little bit. But overall, yeah, super impressed by that performance, and he did carry it over against Khachanov a little bit. I think the only reason it went 4 against Khachanov was he got tight at the end of the third.
Yeah. I was at that match, and I did think that, in a way, 4 sets flattered Khachanov to some extent. I thought Ruud was easily the better player from the tiebreak in the first set onwards. It was nip and tuck in that first set with both players serving excellently until that tiebreak. I do think that actually Khachanov did have a chance to win that tiebreak at least on one occasion, as well as that unbelievable 55-shot rally. But with Ruud, you just knew that it was going to be. Sorry, it wasn't going to be Ruud who was going to break down in that 55-shot rally. I just knew it was going to be Khachanov. I mean, it was obviously an exciting one, and it was quite dramatic, and the crowd, I was there, and of course there was oohs and ahs, but it was always like, okay, when is Khachanov going to break down? And I think he hit a backhand into the net. I'm not sure if it was backhand or a forehand, but basically he netted, and that propelled, of course, Ruud to that first set, and he never looked back because he just steamrolled the second set, and yeah, of course, the third set was nip and tuck again, and Khachanov just snatches it 7-5. But then it was back to normal in the 4th set, and Yeah, Ruud was an easy win for him in the end. That he brings up an excellent return of serve there, and it's 15-40. Be interesting to keep an eye on Alcaraz's movement today, right? Especially with this suggestion of a limp by Pam Shriver on Twitter, and also just in terms of the fact he's had so much tennis, it'll be interesting to see if he is moving loosely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, there was a lot of discussion about sort of on Twitter between me and Vanch about long time spent on court. Speaking of time spent on court, and what we tend to find is people who spend the time as long on court as Alcaraz has tend to lose in these finals. Now, Alcaraz might well be an exception, like Nadal or Djokovic or even Stefan Edberg. Talk about 1992 final, which has been coming up a lot on my timeline recently. Yeah, well, in that discussion, and they mentioned it earlier as well as an interesting point. Yeah, so it should. His despite everyone saying it shouldn't matter, I think it could. Although that's a very good way of saving a break point. I think we're going to have to see. This first set's going to set a lot of the tone, because if Alcaraz sets himself a mountain to climb, let's see how he handles that. And don't forget, he has lost his last two finals.
Yep, very much so. Yeah. So that's Casper Ruud has lost his last two finals. You mean Miami and the French Open this year, right?
No, Alcaraz as well.
Oh, Alcaraz has lost his last two finals. Vanch, who were they against?
One was against Musetti in Hamburg. This was post Wimbledon clay, and the other was against Yannick Sinner.
Post Wimbledon clay. That there's a discussion there to be had.
Yeah.
Sorry,
but I'll tell you what, he hasn't lost a match this year in straight sets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's phenomenal. Who are you favouring today, Isabel, in terms of who you think's going to win?
I'm putting my heart with Casper Ruud, actually.
Okay, your heart and your head with Casper Ruud?
Pretty much, yeah. But full disclosure, I won't be surprised if Alcaraz wins it. But I think I'm gonna put my money towards Casper.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. What about you, Vanch? I think you've gone for Alcaraz in 4, right?
Yeah, I'm going for Alcaraz in 4. I just see way too many advantages for him in this matchup over Ruud. Now, don't get me wrong, Ruud has gotten a lot better since Miami. He's hitting his backhand a lot better, clearly. Taking it much earlier, flattening it out. Definitely tinkered with the technique on that shot, and in some ways I enjoy watching it more on a hard court. I do think he has one advantage in this match, which is his first serve. I think his first serve is still better than Alcaraz's right now. He can get more free points. He has more aces in the tournament. He can hit his spots still a little better than Alcaraz right now. But I don't think that's enough in terms of like the athleticism that Alcaraz has, the explosiveness, the shot making. The rest of the advantages, the backhand advantage is still there. I'll be interested to see how well Ruud serves and how big his forehand can be inside in and inside out, and how much.
Talking of hitting your spots, by the way, Alcaraz hit a spot with a forehand pass. It was a passing attempt that clipped the top of the net and deceived Ruud. Ruud then has a fairly easy volley, I would suggest, or fairly easy forehand that he hit long, and he's now love 30. Both are sort of struggling to hold serve. Is that something that you would anticipate to continue throughout the match, Nick?
Maybe not throughout the match. I think in these early stages, I'm not surprised. But to continue that match, no, I think it'll stabilize. Definitely by the time we get into a second or a third set, I would be surprised if we're constantly getting deep into service games.
Yeah. Fair enough. As another clip net called there for Alcaraz. It's love 30 at the moment, and they're in the midst of a rally as Alcaraz seeks a love 40 lead. He's certainly got his man on the run at the moment. Oh, that's an excellent point. Puts his hand up in apology, but then ultimately clenches his fist. Isabel, that was a good point.
It was a good point. There've been a lot of good points so far.
Yeah.
I think it's. I know that I said I'm putting my money on Ruud, but like I'm putting my money on Ruud, but I know it's going to be a very difficult road for him to actually win this final.
Vanch, I listened to your pod the other day with Jack and Owen, and listeners and viewers, check that out when you get a chance. It was a review of the Sinner match. What is it about Alcaraz that he seems to bring out the best maybe in his opponents. I mean, Sinner is a great tennis player who may well go on to win, many many Grand Slams, blah, blah, blah. But I don't see him playing like that when he's playing somebody else. I remember him getting thrashed by Tsitsipas in Australia this year, and I've seen him play, and he's done well in other matches. But what is it about Alcaraz that brings out the best in, say, Jannik Sinner or other players?
Well, I think Sinner, obviously, I think they have tremendous respect for each other in the rivalry, and they've obviously practiced a lot with each other, and they've been bigged up. I guess Alcaraz more than Sinner recently, but I think Sinner just kind of trying to show that he's also one of the best next gen players, or I guess to the post 2000s players as well. I think Sinner is just a really good ball striker, and it forces Alcaraz to hit many shots to win points. And obviously, when you see the way they match up, I feel like Alcaraz is really. It's not just Sinner, against a lot of other players. I tweeted this the other day as well. I think he's just raising the bar, and a lot of these players he has this fear factor and aura right now around him on tour, where I just feel like this is just forcing a lot of players to get better and better and work on their weaknesses and match Alcaraz's intensity. I think that's the biggest thing when people make the Rafa comparisons. It's not so much at all his game. I think the comparisons more stem, for me at least, they stem more from his attitude, his work ethic, his like point for point mentality, the fact that he doesn't let a single point go. It doesn't matter if it's 40 love 40, he'll just try and chase every single ball down, even if it seems impossible that he can even get to it. So I just feel like that just forces the opponent to raise his level and just match that, and it's just.
I also think with those two that neither have unbelievable serves, particularly Alcaraz, you can get at it. But also what I would add to that is I've heard lots of people saying, oh, both these players can get better. I don't want them to get better. I don't want Alcaraz to have a big serve and get 20 aces in a match, because if that's the case, that things will get very boring. Listen, there's a reason why Rafa and Novak are as exciting and as dynamic as they are. And by the way, Novak in particular has made big improvements on his serve, but it's still no John Isner. But if you imagine you put John Isner's serve with Novak Djokovic or Rafa Nadal as well. I mean, Rafa Nadal at the beginning of his career used to just get the ball in play. Yeah. You should just put the ball in play and, to hell with it. Let's get on with the point. Particularly on
max 105, 110 and just points.
Yeah, exactly. I think Rafa's made some improvements on his serve under Carlos Moya. I think it was starting to fade a bit before then. And also, I think in 2013, which is obviously a few years before Moya came on board, he seemed to have really good serving stats at that particular US Open that year, which of course he went on to win.
Or was it more so 2010? I remember that year he was serving close to.
Oh, maybe in 2010. I maybe get my US Open muddled up.
Yeah, he was really good.
Alcaraz puts in 109 mile an hour first serve into the net, but he has got the break here. Nick, Carlos Alcaraz's broken serve, as we were sort of mid chat there, and he's looking to obviously hold. Is this going exactly as you kind of imagined it would, as we look at John Bon Jovi in the crowd?
I didn't think he'd break so early. That surprised me a little bit. I thought it'd be like midway through the first set that he would break, but I was expecting Alcaraz to win the first set. So it's kind of going, it's not going 100% how I thought, but it's going in the direction I was expecting, which is Alcaraz will get the better start and potentially take the first set. But we're still, we're only on game 4 of the set. We've got a long way to go. Ruud could still break back. Let's see how the service game goes. Just going on, we were going back to the point about past the final. I just wanted to throw a quick stat in there. On his way to the final, Casper Ruud has dropped 5 sets and 95 games. Alcaraz has dropped 6 sets and 96 games.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's only 1 game difference, even though Alcaraz has dropped 1 more set. So it implies to me that the sets he's won has been easier.
Yeah. It's just that Ruud's occurred a lot earlier on in the tournament, of course, with his sort of lengthy battles, whereas
yes. This is
that point.
Excellent cat and mouse tennis.
Oh my
Excellent,
God.
love it. They're all over the place, and the athleticism and the shots there.
That half volley. that half volley, Isabel from Alcaraz. I nearly called him Alcatraz then.
Oh.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Whoa,
yeah,
whoa.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So there's an incredible half volley there from Alcaraz, but actually, it's Ruud on this occasion who's the one chasing it down and ends up winning the point. It's 30-15, but that hardly tells the story. That's certainly the point of the match so far, right, Isabel?
Yeah.
So far, yeah. But I'm
Yeah.
sure we're gonna have a lot of them.
Yeah.
Both of these guys have had like some of the best points of the tournament, so I expect the match to just be only that from now on.
I agree. And as I say, sometimes I wouldn't really want to see a John Isner Carlos Alcaraz final, though I think it would be interesting to see Alcaraz try and dismantle the John Isner serve. But that'll be for another day. Today it's 30 all with Ruud facing serve, trying to get back into this match. Obviously a breakdown at the moment. As Alcaraz goes big on the forehand there, is it going to be enough to win the point? Don't know. No, it's not. No, it is not. And it's 30-40. Isabel, you're expecting this to be a blockbuster, and I think, given the first three and a half games or so, I think it's turning out that way.
Yeah. I think Ruud is gonna raise his level a bit.
Looking at some of the celebs in the crowd, they're loving that in New York. I've seen Jerry Seinfeld there, John Bon Jovi. And the other thing I noticed when I'm actually there, actually also watched on TV, is I don't know most of these people. I know John. Basically, if they're over 50, I think I normally know them. Sometimes they just show some random dude who looks like quite smart and has that sort of appearance of being quite famous, but I don't know really who they are. As Alcaraz gets it back on Deuce.
I mean, on celebrities, did you see Iga Swiatek's tweet on seeing Matthew Perry in the crowd? She made a Friends reference.
She noticed him? Did she notice him?
Yeah.
Was it during the match?
Yeah, she saw him on the big screen, and she decided to tweet that she noticed him and made a Friends reference in the tweet.
Oh, did she?
She said, "Could I be any more excited?"
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
She's great.
Yeah, a lot.
Interaction was awesome.
Yeah.
From both.
Yeah. I think he actually replied to her on Twitter as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Raise her profile.
So as Casper Ruud sort of runs around his backhand on that return, something, of course, it's a lot easier to do on clay to run around the backhand, but perhaps with a second serve from Alcaraz, I think it's probably a little bit more feasible, but it didn't work for Casper Ruud on that occasion. It's now an hour. Just looking at time on court, what I have here, obviously we talked about games and sets, which also I think is really interesting. There's actually a 2-hour difference. Alcaraz has been on court almost 2 hours longer than Ruud, despite the fact that they've sort of dropped almost the same number of games, probably because Alcaraz is in epic rallies all the time. So he may win a point, but it may take him 10 shots more, and therefore he's on court much longer. As Alcaraz holds serve to the delight of his team. No signs of any limp. Did you hear about this limp, Matt Vanch, that was mentioned on Twitter before the match?
Yeah, I did see this tweet from Pam, and I just thought, okay, I deserve the right to reserve judgment until I actually see something play out in the match itself. Because I noticed this early on in the Tiafoe match as well. I think commentators, a few of them that I heard on ESPN, they were really trying to see every little niggle from Alcaraz or every little kind of movement and trying to see whether like they see signs of any kind of fatigue. But to be honest, I never really saw it throughout the whole match. I thought he was really, really explosive for all 5 sets. So I wasn't too concerned when I saw that tweet, unless I actually see something in the match.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to the match. I just got a bit distracted. They're 3-1 here, Alcaraz, and this will be a big serve game here for Ruud. I mean, can't really go a double breakdown to Alcaraz. I mean, he'll be really there for the taking if that is the case. Nick, we talked about Casper Ruud's sort of serve in the build-up to this match, or as the match got underway. For me, it hasn't been as effective today as it was against Khachanov. Is that more about Alcaraz than it is about Casper Ruud?
I mean, I've not been paying close enough attention to how many serves he's getting in play. His first serve seems fine, doesn't seem uninhibited when it is going into play. I would need to see the stats on how he's doing in terms of how many he's getting in court. So I think a lot of this is down to Alcaraz being able to attack it, and I think that's down to Alcaraz's confidence rather than Ruud needing to improve anything. But again, I need to see the stats to see what I've missed.
Yeah, sure. What I'll expand on another theme, of course, from today. The main theme being the men's final and who's going to win their first major. But of course, there is the world number one title on the line, so to speak. This is my take on it. If Ruud gets it, it might be quite short lived. It might be one of those ones that is a few weeks. If it goes to the end of the year, well done. But I think he would need to have still a fairly strong end to the year to hold off Alcaraz and Nadal, I would suggest, depending on how many tournaments Nadal plays, of course. Bearing in mind that Nadal didn't play at all in the second half of last year. So if he does play any tennis, it'll all be points gained. But if it's Alcaraz, conversely, as he's not exactly defending a load of points and in fact would go into Australia, I know it's a few months away, but would go into Australia where he got to the third round and lost to Berrettini, we could be looking at a lengthier spell at number one and maybe the longest spell at number one for a while, or at least since Djokovic held it until the beginning of the year, because this year has always been a bit nip and tuck with the world number one. We've had situations where Medvedev is losing matches and becoming world number one, not as a result, but you know what I mean? He would lose in Acapulco, whereas and then Djokovic would get it, and then Medvedev had it for a couple of weeks, and then Medvedev got it back from Djokovic, blah, blah, blah. But I do think if Alcaraz was to get it, I think that we could be there for a few months, or if not longer, depending on, of course, how Djokovic gets on for the rest of the year, and also in Australia where he won't have any points to defend. I did hear, by the way, today that Djokovic is going to be allowed into Australia. That may have just been a careless tweet, and I didn't really follow much up on that. But you heard that as well, Nick?
Yeah, it's from a reputable source. I believe it's from an Australian media source. So
okay.
I think it's going to happen. I think Djokovic will be returning to Melbourne in 2023, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah,
really, because it's ruining the start of the year for me already.
Check out Isabel's article on popcorn tennis, by the way. If he's not allowed in and there is some kind of furor, you could just repost that and put a new timestamp on it.
Yeah, I probably will.
Yeah. So we've got Alcaraz, obviously a breakup here, albeit that Casper Ruud has just held, so it's 3-2. Vanch.
Yeah, he's serving fine.
Say again, Nick.
He's serving fine, to answer your earlier question.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, Vanch, what has Casper Ruud got to do to get back in this match? I mean, I mentioned his serve has got to get a bit better. He just held to love. So, what is he doing wrong? Would you say at the moment, Vanch?
Honestly, he's not doing that much wrong. He did well to hold in the first service game when Alcaraz had 2 break points. Sometimes I will say Alcaraz is a little bit not as opportune on break points. That's probably one area where he can still get a lot better at. So definitely, if Ruud sees a look at a second serve where he has a little bit more, he feels like he has a little more time to unload on a return, and he can run around that backhand on the ad side and do some damage with his invertido, is what my friend Gil Gross likes to call it, which is basically a combination of inside-out forehands with the inside-in, and both of those are Casper's best shots right now.
Yeah.
But whether will it be enough against Casper, against Alcaraz's speed? Probably not, but Alcaraz does sometimes can get erratic and give a few errors away. So Ruud just has to be there and pounce when he gets the opportunities, I would say.
The good thing is, if you're a fan of his opponent, or if you are his opponent, Alcaraz does sometimes give you a chance to get back into matches, if you like, back into sets as well. So one break, again, if you're one break down, it's probably the 4th time I've mentioned John Isner on this pod, and I'll try not to mention him again. But if you're a breakdown to John Isner, it can be a long way back, as Andy Murray felt at Wimbledon this year. Whereas, that's a good point. Whereas against Alcaraz, you just know that serve is not such a big thing. I remember that unbelievable match between him and Rafa in Indian Wells where they were just constantly breaking each other's serve, which I would have said until that quarterfinal with Alcaraz and Sinner the other day, I would have said that was possibly the match of the year in terms of quality. Those 3 sets were just insane, but I do think it's been eclipsed now by that Alcaraz Sinner match. And like I said earlier, make sure you check out Vanch's pod along with Jack on the line. I think it's called, isn't it, Jack's pod that
Yep.
he did on that match shortly after it took place, which I think, as I said on Twitter, is basically that pod will last for months or years because it'll still be relevant when people look back on that match in years to come. Nick, have you got any thoughts on what's going on at the moment? Are you on mute?
I am on mute because I was checking something. Critical service game for Alcaraz, but then aren't they all? It's kind of hard to say at the minute. Sort of more than what we've said thus far. At the minute, the rest of the set's going to be about can Alcaraz hold on. History suggests he should be able to, but that was a silly unforced error from him, and he is making more unforced errors than Ruud, probably because he is going for it a little bit more, as you would expect from Alcaraz. So right now, I don't see Alcaraz losing this set unless his level drops.
As Alcaraz comes to the net and win a point there with a volley. Vanch, what is Alcaraz like at the net? You're on mute as well, I think.
I think his net play is one of his big strengths. He's very good at recognizing when a player goes to the slice to come forward and knock off easy volleys. He has amazing touch, hands. I think it's actually one of his strong suits. I think that's why he's actually maybe better suited to hard courts at this point in his career, because he can just make that transition very easily and finish off points. And if he sometimes does hit kind of a poor volley, most players would not be able to get back into the point. But with his ridiculous speed, I think he can sometimes afford to botch one in the hope that he might get another, just because his hands and speed are just that good. So I rate it pretty high. I would say Ruud has improved as well at the net. He was pretty impressive at net against Khachanov. I think won like 90% of his net points.
Nerve management, would you say is kind of 50-50, or would you favour Alcaraz a bit more on this one, Nick, in terms of managing the nerves of the big occasion?
That's a good question. I would say normally Alcaraz, judging by what we've seen before. Ruud does have a tendency on the bigger has a history, maybe a bit more of a history of getting nervous, but I think that's not by much. I think the only time I've really seen him get nervous is that Roland Garros final. The rest of the time he's been pretty efficient, but he's struggled against much better players. People who are playing much better on the day anyway. So it's tough. I think let's see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if Alcaraz gets tight if he gets close to the finish line. It's one of those things. Unless you know both individuals and you know what's going on inside their heads, then you can only really make a snap judgment call based on what you've seen, and that could be very wrong.
Vanch, I'm going to come to you in a second as Alcaraz aces and holds to lead 4-2. I'm going to come to you in a second, Vanch, on that Miami final, and if it will have any bearing on today's result or today's match in a second. But just one thing there on this nerve management thing. I remember saying to a friend of mine, just after I think it was that Indian Wells semi-final between Rafa and Alcaraz, and I just said to my friend who really, he likes tennis, he plays a bit of tennis, he knows what's going on, but Alcaraz's star, which for the rest of us on here, has been rising really probably since the US Open a year ago. But I was telling my friend, this guy is the real deal. I said, the only thing we don't know is what I said to him is we just don't know what it's going to be like for him in a major final because we haven't seen it until now. So in terms of the nerve management, we've seen how Casper Ruud dealt with it for, well, probably all three sets really against Rafa, because it wasn't like he settled. I think Rafa won the last set either 6-1 or 6-love. I can't remember now in Paris. But it seemed like he never quite got over it. And in fact, I think Ruud said that he was another victim of Rafa on that court, and there'll be many more. And it just seemed like he was in awe of him throughout that match. Shouldn't be the case today, and it doesn't look like it's the case today. But as I said to you, that Miami final. So those of you tuning in that don't know, these two players played in Miami about 5 months ago, I think it was. April time, I think, however long ago that was. And it was a straight sets win for Alcaraz. That match, any relevance today, Vanch?
I think you can draw some relevance in terms of tactics. But to be honest, I think surfaces was a little different. It was a little slower. Definitely Alcaraz was the heavier favorite, like going in. There was just like I made Alcaraz a pretty heavy favorite going into that going into that final, and I just felt like Ruud was too far back, and Alcaraz was using taking advantage of Ruud's deep court position and serving and volleying on the ad side, coming in on Ruud's backhand. He was really doing everything you expected him to do, and he did show some early nerves actually in that final, which he didn't show thus far. So he was down 3-love, and he came back and won the set, broke back, but won it 7-5, and from then on it was pretty convincing, 6-4 in the second.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely showed the gulf in between both the players, but I also think Ruud is a better player now. So
Yep, I agree.
it's kind of interesting.
Yep, I agree. As Alcaraz goes big on a forehand return and doesn't make it, so it's 40-love here for Ruud as he seeks to hold serve and get it back to 3-4. By the way, question there in the live chat, where can you watch the game? Depending on which country you're in, but if you're in the US, I'm watching it on ESPN. I also know in various parts of Europe, it's on Eurosport or Amazon. What channel are you watching on, Nick?
Amazon Prime in the UK.
Is that the same for you then? Is it, Isabel?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are betting websites I know that do tend to stream. Oh, what's Casper Ruud doing there? Oh, maybe he knew it was a double fault, was it? Anyway, that was an unusual one. So yeah, I don't know. I think there are betting websites sometimes where you can tune in and watch for free, and they tend to be pretty. Oh dear, yeah. So that was an intentional shot there from Casper. Very unusual for him to try that. I don't.
Who does he think he is, Nick Kyrgios?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That was a very. I don't know. He's trying to be Nick Kyrgios at least.
You know what's funny is I saw him do it live and against Dimitrov at the San Diego Open last year.
Okay.
I was surprised.
So
I was like, "Oh,
you mean Casper Ruud, yeah?
Yeah, that's some cheekiness."
Yeah, so he has done it before. So what we're just talking about is there was a point, really a fairly comfortable point. It could have been a fairly easy forehand, I would suggest, for the Norwegian, but he decided to do a sort of forward tweener. Is that the right term? A between the legs shot, anyway, that Kyrgios, of course, has become famous for. Anyway, it's 4-3. Ruud is actually holding fairly comfortably at the moment, so that's something for him to get excited about, I guess. Nick, this last couple of games have kind of just flown by a bit quicker than the previous ones. It looks like people are holding serve a bit easier now. Is that kind of to be expected?
Yeah, this is now more the pattern of the match I was kind of expecting a little bit. Obviously, Ruud's not really making enough inroads on Alcaraz's service games. Now the nerves have kind of settled a bit. They're both serving quite well. So now we're just waiting for the next laps, which could well come when Alcaraz is serving for the first set in a major championship final. So we'll see how that goes. But I would expect them to keep what's the score now? 4-3 with a break?
4-3. 4-3 with a break, yeah.
Yeah. So I would maybe expect the nerves to set in around 5-4 or 5-3.
Yeah. Could be interesting to see how he gets on. And that's the thing. We just don't know really with either player, but in particular, Alcaraz, we have nothing to go on. We just don't know. I've seen people in all sorts of sports who seem to be as cool as a cucumber until the absolute biggest moment where it's like, oh, I could become US Open champion if I just hold my serve for the next couple of service games or whatever, and then it can fall apart. We've seen that so many times in tennis and other sports. Alcaraz doesn't strike me as somebody who's going to get that sort of attack of the nerves, but you never know with an aggressive game like his. Sometimes that sort of, sometimes he can be a bit too aggressive. What happened, by the way, Vanch, to Alcaraz in the last couple of months, or particularly say since that defeat to Zverev until the US Open? That form between that French Open defeat to Zverev and now is what led me to think he's not winning the US Open. But I was pretty much wrong, albeit he might not win today. But what happened in that 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because after the Miami final, I thought, okay, U.S. Open for him is going to be the moment because that's the most open major, and I didn't know Djokovic was going to play, and Rafa with his health, and Medvedev defending champion. I didn't know how all that was going to play out. Obviously, Zverev got injured, so I saw that okay, there's a good opening. Alcaraz can win, but then I saw his form since Madrid, and then I realized, okay, he even admitted it to himself that he's kind of feeling the pressure a little bit. He was candid about that. He put out a tweet and he said, I felt the pressure because he felt like he was number 3 or 4 in the world, and it happened with such a meteoric rise that I think he just needed to, he just needed some of those losses to get them out of the way. And even then, a lot of those were hard fought 3-setters, where his break point conversions were just not great, and that ended up costing him. Didn't really
Yeah.
take all of his chances. I think if he had just been 10 or 15% better, it would have gone his way. But particularly his Zverev match at the French Open, I just felt like he was very, very erratic for 2 sets, and he went down very quickly. And from then, it was such a uphill climb, and he almost got his way all the way back into it. And I would have probably liked him in the 5th set as well, because he has a very, very good 5-set record. And Zverev does tend to get very tight in situations like that in majors. So and then Wimbledon, I just felt like it was not that big of a deal because he injured his elbow, I believe, and he missed queens. So
Okay.
from then I thought, okay, he might be very, very undercooked, and obviously grass. He's only played there one or two official matches before Wimbledon this year, so that wasn't too much of a surprise. He didn't look very comfortable there.
Yeah.
Overall.
I actually think he did better than I expected at Wimbledon in terms of
same here.
he was winning matches more comfortably than I expected, and
He lost in
yeah.
the first round. He was like on the brink against Struff in the first round.
Oh, okay, yeah, but Struff in the first round was a really tough one. Sorry,
Really
you're
tough
right.
draw,
Yeah, but
Really tough
so
draw.
when he won that, I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then I think he won the next couple in straight sets. He seemed to be having a lot of fun. Seemed to be tweeting for pictures from his home that they tend to rent in West London. By the way, Isabel, I'm going to come to you in about 15, 20 seconds or so, and I'd like to know some of your thoughts on the match. But also, you said that you were sort of leaning maybe a bit towards Casper Ruud, both heart and head. How do you think the New York crowd in particular are feeling? Do you think they're a little bit more sympathetic towards Alcaraz than you are?
I don't know if sympathetic is the right word. I mean, without the sound, I can't really judge what their reaction is. But I think they really like Alcaraz.
Yeah.
I think he really reminds them of, like, I know that he's not young Nadal, but I think he reminds Americans of Nadal very much. So I think that they are really into that, and I think for as problematic as the U.S. Open crowds can be, sorry, that point. Yeah, I think that they really do just want a great final. I think they all want their money's worth.
Absolutely.
And if Casper needs more support from the crowd, I think he would probably get it. But yeah, they do probably favor Alcaraz a bit.
Got it. Nick, you just said what a point, and why is that?
I think it was one of those cat and mouse points that both players all over the court, and then Alcaraz finished it with a lovely sort of half volley at the service line, just over the net. Lovely touch from him, as we've come to expect. The thing about Alcaraz is he's just got this amazing combination of big shots, but also incredible touch. He is such the complete player. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. And long may he have an average serve continue. That's all I ask for. I don't want him to get a really good serve, coach. Otherwise, tennis could get very boring. Listen, I think when you look at somebody's serve, nobody goes from being a not a great server, let's say, or an okay server to being a serve bot. But we do see some of these players. I think Djokovic maybe is probably the best example for me in recent years, who really has improved his serve a lot. Certainly, I would say. Just before the pandemic, and maybe that's sort of 2020, 2021. He's just not played enough this year really for me to evaluate his serve perhaps this year. But anyway, it's 3-5 now. Ruud is serving to stay in this first set. I'll probably talk us through this game as it's such a big game, with Ruud obviously having to win it to stay in the first set. He's actually just won the first point with a nice 1-2. Excellent serve out wide. Alcaraz got his racket on it, as he tends to do, gets it back over, but in the end, Ruud sends Alcaraz the wrong way with a nice forehand winner. More of that, please, for the Norwegian fans, I would have thought. 15 love here. I'll talk us through this second point of this game as he gets the first serve in as well to the backhand, and he's actually won that point. It's an unreturnable 30 love. As I said, really, I would suggest that I don't recall a juice or a break point in recent games. Both seem to be serving a bit better, and both seem to be holding a bit more comfortably. Be interesting to see if the pressure does get shifted back to Alcaraz in a minute, to see if he can hold as comfortably. Anyway, here we go. As 40 love now, another unreturnable maybe, but maybe Alcaraz could have reacted a bit quicker to that sort of body serve, but in the end he sort of got a backhand slice and just put it into the net. So it's 40-love now, 3 game points. As I look at the first serve stats coming up, Ruud winning 10 out of 14 points on first serve. Alcaraz, very similar stat actually, with a 12 out of 17 ratio on his first serve. What that does say though is that Alcaraz is getting his first serve in a bit more than the Norwegian. He's managed to do it 17 times thus far. As Alcaraz wins a point finally on the Ruud serve, it's 40-15. Nick, Ruud's going to hold here?
Yeah, I expect that. I mean, having said that, you would expect that. Like, we've seen straight people come back from 40-love all the time, but I'm expecting Ruud to hold. I think that was just a silly mistake there.
It was. Yeah, it was. By the way,
he's missed that first serve by a mile.
Yeah, he has. Got the second serve in though. He's going for a backhand there. Alcaraz goes big, but too big. It's long and it's game. Ruud to 15, 5-4 as they go for the change over. I guess this is kind of, if you expected the match to be a 4-set victory for Alcaraz, I guess this is kind of going that way that you would imagine it to. But not done yet. And of course, if Casper was to break here, that would be big. Is the match living up to our expectations, do you think, Nick?
Yes, actually. I think the opening few games were a bit nervy, but now we've kind of settled in. We've had some great rallies, some great points. Both players are in their stride. I'm not really seeing many really silly or unforced errors or kind of patches of unforced errors. At the end of the day, it was just Casper Ruud was a little bit tighter in the opening games, and that's why he got broken. That's been the only difference in this match, is that slight lapse at the beginning. Other than that, their level's pretty close. And I think if this continues, if Alcaraz holds this out, I think we're in for a very fascinating second set. I could see that being a tiebreak.
Yep, I agree. Yes, but I think it is living up to how we imagine it to go. Listen, do you expect Alcaraz to serve this out fairly comfortably, or can you see it being a bit nervy, Vanch?
I could see both. I don't know which one it'll be, because this could very well be like the rest of his service games, and he doesn't really feel the weight, or it could be like some of the matches we've seen from him before, in the previous 4 months before the Open, where occasionally, even though he was still winning, but he had to kind of win ugly, or even throughout this tournament, I guess he hasn't always served out sets the first time. So maybe he does get a little nervy. Maybe he throws in a double fault. Maybe he goes too big on a couple of shots. But no, I still expect him to win this set. Even if he gets broken, I still expect him to win this set, and maybe the second set, like a Ruud's way. I predicted Alcaraz in 4, and I thought he'd win the first, Ruud would win the second, and then Alcaraz would go away with it. But
it does look like that Alcaraz has faced 3 break points in this set, and he's saved them all. Obviously, Ruud has been broken once. By the way, you obviously followed yesterday's final quite closely, Isabel. What did you make of that women's final? Was it exciting for you? Was it a bit of a disappointment? Do you think Ons didn't quite turn up, or Iga just was the better player on the day?
I think it was a bit of both, really. I think the first set was not kind of disappointing. I don't think anyone expected Ons to sort of falter that quickly, but the second set was much more exciting. And I really, really wanted her to win the second set.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
But yeah, I think it was just a combination of, like, she wasn't really changing any of her, making any different choices to go against Iga, and Iga was just on fire. So just a bit of both.
Yeah, completely agree. I will just come back to this match though, and we'll get some more broader thoughts maybe on the women's final a little bit later on, because Alcaraz, 40-love, 3 set points. I'll talk us through this particular point because it could well be crucial in terms of the first set. Let's see how it goes. 40-love, Alcaraz leads. First serve, he's going to get it in. No, he goes long. Was going to the forehand of Alcaraz with the first serve. Be interesting to see if he goes to the forehand on the second serve. Sorry, to Casper Ruud on the second serve. Casper Ruud's so far back, even on the second serve here. Interesting. He goes to the backhand, as I probably thought he would. And he nets. So it's game and first set. Alcaraz 6-4 as his team do the fist pump thing. There does seem to be a little bit of a limp there, by the way, with Alcaraz. Just have a quick look. Maybe you, one or two of you, a couple of seconds behind. Just have a look at Alcaraz here, Vanch. I don't know if you can see this. At the end of this point, he does seem to limp a bit.
Yeah,
can you see that?
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a limp there.
I mean, it may be something, as we mentioned before, with the adrenaline that he can come through.
Yeah.
But funny enough, he reacted his first few steps, having won the point, because it was just an unreturnable, as it turned out. And his first few steps were fine. It was actually after, I think, he does the fist pump and maybe a slight angle to the net. He then turns, and then there is a pronounced, maybe an exaggeration, but a limp of some sort. So let's give Pam Shriver a nod of appreciation, because I think she's probably got that right, that there is some kind of limp going on there, but it hasn't really hindered him thus far. Vanch, what are your thoughts?
I thought it was going pretty much like how I expected. Really, one break just decided the set. Alcaraz did well to save those 3 break points. Ruud was kind of nervy in the beginning. It was really just the one game at 1-1 where Ruud was a little tighter, and I feel like that was the whole set, really. Alcaraz taking advantage of Ruud's deep return position, still coming to the net. I believe he's been fairly successful. I don't know I haven't checked the exact stats, but it looks like net points won, he's been pretty efficient. And,
I've got it in front of me, Vanch, if you want them.
Yeah, go on, Nick.
Yeah, I decided to have the stats up just in case we needed them.
Okay, that's a good idea. Yeah, we should probably do that.
So currently nets points won. Ruud is on 3 out of 7, 43%. Alcaraz is 9 out of 11, 82%. So
yeah, that's what you would expect, right?
Big difference.
Winning the cat and mouse points, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I just feel as though really Ruud, unless that limp does become a big thing. I do think that's an interesting suitcase. So I'm just looking at a commercial in the US for a company called Guard. A really cool suitcase where you can sort of open up a bag within it and have little sections for your.
He's going to be coming back with an extra suitcase, isn't he?
There you go. Let's see. I've got 24 hours to get this suitcase. That might not be enough, particularly as it looks like you've got to order online. But good on the Americans for making progress on the suitcase thing, by the way. And not only that, I do want to just make a comment, which I think I'm not the first person to mention this, but I believe the wheel was invented quite a long time ago. I believe the suitcase was also invented quite a long time ago. How come it took us like 5,000 years to put the two things together and actually have wheels on suitcases? Because I'm telling you, it's like I'm not that old, but I actually remember people having to lift suitcases like this around everywhere onto trains and stuff. And then one day somebody said, "Why don't we put little wheels on the bottom? It'd be a lot easier."
Yeah.
Anyway, thank God we got there in the end.
John asking the important questions on talking tennis here.
That's what you're here for. Come for the tennis, leave with the suitcase.
John is starting a second channel called Talking Suitcases.
Talking suitcases, yeah. It doesn't quite have the same ring to it. Chatting suitcases or something maybe beginning with F for the alliteration there might work. Anyway, listen, there's been a fairly quick turnaround. No lengthy bathroom breaks. No Stefanos Tsitsipas here. No pep talks from Djokovic. No changes of outfits a la Rafa necessary here. And it is 30-15, Casper Ruud serving. Listen, from Casper Ruud's point of view, he has been holding serve much more comfortably in the last few games. So if he can continue that momentum, that would be good for him. Nick, give me some non-suitcase thoughts.
I just had a quick look at the number of points won. And interestingly, at this point, it's 30-15 to Ruud. It's actually 33 points to 31 total in the match. The margins are actually pretty close, which just by watching it is obvious as Ruud goes wide with the backhand to open up 30 on his opening service game. So I'm interested to see how this plays out, because if he gets broken early on here, then that could be the set gone already. but yeah, the margins of this match have been pretty fine, and that's been quite obvious to see.
Yeah, just one break of serve. Am I right on that? Just one break of serve so far,
Yeah.
Vanch? Yeah, and that was right at the beginning of the match. I think it was was it first game or second?
At 1-1.
Third game.
Yeah, 1-1, yeah. But he was close to being broken, I remember, in that first game as well, Ruud. But I think since those first two games, when he was holding on marginally, it's been fairly comfortable. Did you say the points difference is pretty much identical, Nick? Is that what you were saying?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, there's only 1 point in it between them now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty much identical.
Yeah.
A good pattern that's working well for Ruud right now is the serve out wide and then hitting behind Alcaraz on the next shot.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that occurring at least once, and Alcaraz struggling with it, as I think Ruud holds. Am I right on this one? And they're just showing some of the best points from the first set. But yeah, so Ruud has held 1-love, and he'll be looking to just continue if he can just comfortably hold. But he still hasn't really made much of an imprint on the Alcaraz serve, which is a bit of a surprise for me, given how good returner that I think Ruud is, and just in terms of just general return play, I think he's pretty good. So I'm a bit surprised that he hasn't made more of an impression on Ruud, on Alcaraz. Something I have a feeling for, and it'll be interesting to see if there's any evidence to back this up. Sometimes when a player is a little bit injured, as Alcaraz serves up an ace, it looks like, I think. Sometimes when a player's a bit injured or a bit struggling, they do go a bit bigger, and they somehow manage to focus their mind a bit more on their serve and somehow manage to prevail. I remember Medvedev being barely able to walk a couple of years ago because he was suffering from cramps, but he was serving so well, he managed to win the particular match despite cramping for the last couple of games.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think he's come out with a sense of urgency, and he's not really going for way too much like over pressing or anything. He's kind of just hitting the big targets, and then getting the short balls he wants and putting them away. And I feel like he's gone about it in a smart way, because there's no way he's 100%. He's obviously carrying some niggle. He's probably a little bit compromised. Who wouldn't be after playing 3-5 setters?
Yeah.
Somebody brought up a good point on Twitter too, that a lot of it is attributed to his age. And it's sort of like, oh, he's only 19, he should be able to play these kind of matches. But really, no, there's something he's pretty gifted, I think, to be able to do this. And it's pretty abnormal for somebody of any age to win 3-5s. That's why it's so rare. We haven't seen it at the US Open since Edberg in 1992, because it's not common for someone to win 3-5 setters in a row.
Alcaraz just acing his way to holding serves at the moment as well. 1-1 now. Really good points there, Vanch. But by the way, Owen on Twitter doesn't have the same thoughts that we do in terms of competitivity. Competitivity, is that a word? Don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay. You know what I mean. Owen actually thinks it will be straight sets for Alcaraz, and he says this final's got 6-4, 6-4 written all over it. That is maybe being clever after the event, Owen, in that you tweeted that 5 minutes ago. Would like to have seen you tweet that an hour ago to really make that a valid prediction.
True.
I'll tell you what, guys. I'll give you my prediction in about an hour and a half. All right.
I'll give you my prediction once the match is over. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
Actually, talking of time, again, going back to our conversation we had on Twitter, Bunch, about I think, is it 2 hours 9 minutes this final needs to go for this to be the longest total time a major finalist has taken to win a major, if you add all their matches together.
That's right, 2 hours 9 minutes.
So that would exceed Rafa's Australian run, right?
Yeah. Originally, when Nick asked me that question, I for sure thought it was going to be 1992 at Berg, but then I went back and I realized, oh yeah, Rafa this year, and it didn't occur to me right away, because I didn't really think of it as being a super arduous route. But then I look back, and
I think that was obviously largely though because I know we had
because of the final,
the final, because I know we had the Chapeau 5 setter, but really apart from the Chapeau 5 setter and the final, obviously both going at 5 sets, there was just, I think his first 3 rounds were all straight sets. There was an epic tiebreak, of course, which was like 16-14 against Manarino. Maybe
the third round he did lose a set to Khachanov, but
Khachanov, he lost a set there. Yeah, in fact, he also made a comment sometime in this summer, so it's quite a few months later. He said that was the match when he started to believe actually that beating somebody of sort of Khachanov standing sort of made him realize, okay, I am at the level that I need to be at, if you like. as we see Casper Ruud hold to love again, or just holding so comfortably again, 2-1. We have a quick look at Andy Roddick there in the crowd. Talking of big servers and serving well. Isabel, were you a fan of Andy Roddick?
Yeah, I was for the short period that we could all be fans. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't hang around that long compared to say Djokovic and Nadal and all the others. I don't know how old he was when he retired. Maybe 31, 32?
30, yeah.
30. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
by today's standards, that's pretty
That was
young.
common, back then.
Of course it was. Yeah, I mean, Bjorn Borg quit at 26.
Well, there were a lot of reasons for that.
Isabel, are you old enough to remember Bjorn Borg?
Oh, yeah. Don't I look old enough?
Nick, anyway, were you an Andy Roddick fan, Nick?
Yes, I was. I did think his service motion. I found his service motion fascinating. The way that he could sort of snap and deliver all that power, and it was impressive. And I was kind of. I remember that Wimbledon 2009 final he had with Roger Federer, and I was really torn because Federer is my favorite player of all time. But on the other hand, Andy Roddick was very much the underdog, and this would have been a great moment, and he deserved a Wimbledon. So I was really torn watching that match. But I quite liked Roddick. I quite liked his take on things, but I did kind of feel that he was just unlucky with the generation he was in. That at the end of the day, although he had an amazing serve, that wasn't quite enough to compete with the big three who had just come on the scene.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, of course, he did get a US Open under his belt long before that. I think it was 2003, was it? He won that US Open, so I guess a bit earlier in his career.
Played Alcaraz as coach in the final, Juan Carlos Ferrero.
So did he?
Is
Juan Carlos Ferrero, did he win a major?
Yeah, he won the Roland Garros in 2003.
Okay.
And then he got back to number one by getting to the final of US Open. So even though he didn't win it, he was number one the following Monday. So that's so cool. If Alcaraz wins, he'll have done what his coach did.
Andy's there.
Yeah, if there's a bizarre incident where both players run into each other, get injured, and therefore both have to withdraw, I think we should replay that final between Juan Carlos Ferrero and Andy Roddick. And maybe Roddick can represent Casper Ruud. I have no idea why, but we'll try and just fabricate some sort of friendship or relationship between those two. And then the winner basically wins it on behalf of Alcaraz or Ruud. That would be fun. Don't quite know how they would run into each other. Never seen that on a tennis court before. But anyway, there we go. There's lots of things that we've seen at this tournament we haven't seen on a tennis court before, largely provided by Nick Kyrgios. That one where that moment where he hits that volley or whatever when it's actually going like way out. That was a bizarre moment.
One of the most boneheaded things I've ever seen, to be honest. What in the world was that? Like,
yeah, but that's Nick Kyrgios. Anyway,
I think that's called a flex, Vanch.
Yeah, to his credit, it didn't
affect him.
Didn't affect him at all. So that was
which I know on previous occasions he can get affected by those kind of things when he feels as though he's been wronged, if you like. But even when he's got little, leg to stand on in terms of an argument, he still will.
I think he just didn't know the rules.
No, I think he didn't. And to be honest with you, Vanch, I have to confess, I thought that was a legitimate play, but I'm guessing you knew it wasn't legit.
Yeah. Once I saw it, then I realized.
I mean, Medvedev knew immediately. Medvedev sticks his finger in the air, going, "Oh, he knows."
Sorry, I'm catching up a bit here. There was an illegal play from.
Yeah, it was about 4 matches ago. The one against Medvedev in the 4th round, where the ball has been hit up in the air. It's going to land about 2 meters out, but more importantly, it's going to land 2 meters out on Medvedev's side of the net, but because it's lofted up, there's enough time for Kyrgios to run around the net and hit the ball himself, and he hit it.
Oh, right, it was that point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're watching, make sure you hit the like button and please subscribe. Make sure you give Nick, Isabel, and Vanch a follow on Twitter because they tend to post some fairly good stuff, some of which they have penned themselves for Popcorn Tennis, or perhaps just appearing on various podcasts such as On the Line. And Tennis and Bagels is the other podcast. Am I right, Vanch?
Yep.
Yep.
I do that with Andre Rolenberg and Owen Lewis. So you can check us out.
So Owen he's on. So you and Owen sort of spread the love a bit
Oh
in
my
terms of the
goodness.
podcast. With that's a great point because obviously you're also on Jack's on the line from time to time. Great point there for Alcaraz as he's now love 15, and as we said before, given there hasn't been as many break opportunities as we might have come to expect from both these players, given how good they both are on the return in particular, going love 15 is a little sniff for Alcaraz to pursue, if you like, at the beginning of this game here. 2-all, Alcaraz leading 6-4 from the first set, or won the first set 6-4. Love 15, Ruud to serve. I'll talk us through this point, and then I'll come to you, Nick. Backhand return there from Alcaraz as they exchange backhands. Don't know who feel more comfortable on that. As he goes big on the backhand there, Casper Ruud, it's not big enough. Forehand cross court, just lands in, but now it's they're both going pretty big, and it's actually Ruud now. It's Alcaraz on the defensive, doesn't quite make it, hits the net, 15-all, 11 shot rally. I do seem to have a problem with saying points when I mean shots. So keep an eye on that. I might say an 11-point rally at some point, and you'll be thinking, hello. Nick, what are your thoughts?
Still pretty close, still pretty fine margins at the minute. And I mean, that was a really, really good rally. Really enjoying that. When these guys get into a rally, it's really entertaining. So yeah, it's both guys are playing quite well. I'm really pleased for Ruud that he's acquitting himself well in this final, regardless of how it turns out. I still think the second set's going to a tiebreak, personally.
I just got recommended a video. Oh, what a drop shot. Is that landed in or out? Oh, no, it's landed out. Just about to praise Alcaraz for an amazing drop shot, but it just plopped out. By the way, I've just been recommended a YouTube video, but it's one of my own. So that's good. It's good of YouTube to remind me to watch my own videos. So that's cool. Anyway, 30-15 here. Casper Ruud is leading. I'm sure both of these players can't wait to get back online so they can catch up with Talking Tennis random videos posted from New York. Anyway, Kalisakwas won the last three. Yes, that's right. So his last 3 5-setters, he's obviously won, all of which occurred at this tournament. In fact, his 5-set record, Vanch, is it 6 out of 7?
Yeah, it's 8-1 for his whole
8-1, so 8 out of 9.
Yeah, because he also played the 2 5-setters last year at US Open.
Yeah, beating Tsitsipas, was it? And the other one was again
Gojovic.
Yeah,
okay.
Gojovic. I can't pronounce it, and you can never work out how to pronounce the name.
It's a tough name to pronounce. But
and of course, he beat Struff amongst others this year as well. The one, of course, he lost was Berrettini this year in Australia.
Yep,
and that was a super tiebreaker, so it was super tight.
Yeah, he's the only one to win one of his.
Good shot there from Alcaraz. I heard an exclamation there. Was that from you, Nick?
Yeah. I just that backhand passing shot.
There's that generational movement again.
Yeah.
Świątek has a lot of that as well. So
yeah,
she's it's one of those traits, I think.
I also, as a neutral, really, because I don't really mind who wins today. Of course, I'd be quite keen on Ruud winning this set, so we sort of have a match on our hands. It might be a bit of a concern if Alcaraz was to win. I don't see the Alcaraz being the kind of guy to lose a 2 sets lead, if you know what I mean, like go 2 sets to love up and then lose 5. But you never know. Okay, so we've got a backhand slice this time from Ruud. Forehand goes wide. Of course, Alcaraz being in his first major final, be interesting to see if he wins his first major final. So many players, of course, outside of the big 3 get to their first major final and end up running into one of the big 3 and therefore lose it. Tsitsipas obviously springing to mind, Medvedev as well. I'm sure there's many others from history over the last 20 years that have run into those 3 players and therefore not won their first major, but then got on to win their second or third. I think Medvedev won it at the 3rd time of asking. Dominic Thiem must have been like 3rd or 4th time of asking before he won. But of course, that was the year when basically nobody really had to play any of the big 3 because a line judge, as we all know, deliberately got in the way of that ball. So that way, Djokovic got kicked out of the US Open, courtesy, I think, of the US government and Moderna. No doubt were involved in the trajectory of that ball towards that line judge. Anyway, go on, Nick.
That's break point.
Yeah.
All set up by a really good Alcaraz return, really deep.
Alcaraz is determined to prove me wrong about tiebreak.
Yeah. Yes. Juan Carlos Ferrero is listening to this right now. And he's like, I need to prove Nick wrong.
Well, Carlos, if you are watching, give us a like.
Yeah. You could even give us a comment, but we might not put it up on the screen.
You can tear your eyes away from the match for a minute.
Yeah. I had you. By the way, Casper Ruud has just won that
nice
point with a
serve
good serve.
from
Yeah,
the team.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know why Casper Ruud occasionally, and also his team, wear these sort of Formula One type T-shirts that look like they should be a mechanic for a Formula One team. I did tweet that, by the way, earlier this year. I said, "Why is?" I took a picture of Casper Ruud on TV. I think it was during the Australian Open. Was he injured for the Australian Open?
Yeah, he didn't play Australia. He was hurt.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Eurosport got him on the TV just before the final, I think it was, and to get some thoughts. And he was there with the baseball cap, seemed like a Formula One T-shirt. I took a picture of it, put it on Twitter, and I said, well, "Since when has Casper Ruud become a Formula One driver?" Casper Ruud liked the tweet, but then he must have unliked it pretty quickly, because I've got a screenshot of him liking it. You know, on your phone you can see it, because then maybe he pressed the wrong button. Because he then decided to not like it anymore, because after about a minute, that like was gone. But I have got the screenshot to prove it. So, Casper, you're more than welcome to come on the show anytime, and we'll have this out as to what really happened that day. Whether you or one of your management team accidentally liked my post, don't know. Anyway, Casper Ruud has held there. That was a pretty big hold, right, Nick?
Yeah, that was a pretty big hold. That was really good save at the break point, and then to serve it out and force the error from Alcaraz at the end there. That's probably Ruud's most impressive game so far this match. The fact that he's still ahead on serve. So I mean, that's talking of biases. I just wanted to remind those of us who don't already know this. Don't forget, Isabel, Ruud is kind of your hope for winning the popcorn predictions bracket as well. It's between Isabel and Claire Stanley from the Murray Musings podcast. You may have heard her with Scott, who appears in the chat sometimes. And basically, if Alcaraz wins, Claire wins the bracket, and if Ruud wins, Isabel wins the bracket.
So another reason for you to
I had
support
no
Ruud.
idea.
Another
I didn't know I was in the running at all. So
no, you're leading. You are tied on points with Jack, but you're 2 points ahead with Claire.
I don't know how the hell that happened, because everyone that I feel like I picked lost. I think I just had like one constant for each part of the draw.
You were one of the few people who had faith in Carlos Alcaraz going to the final.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's right, I did.
You just don't predict him losing it.
Did you have a Ruud Alcaraz final? Is that what we're saying?
No, I think I had a Nadal Alcaraz final.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
No, it couldn't, because it was in the same half of the draw. It'd be Alcaraz Medvedev, maybe.
Oh, maybe it was Medvedev. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it was so long ago. I don't even remember it.
I can't check it without turning the stream off on this device.
Looks like you knew what you were doing, Isabel.
Well, yeah.
I
think I also thought Serena would get to the quarters, but that was short-lived.
Yeah, but you mean you made that prediction before the tournament began?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were, after she beat Kontaveit in particular, starting to think that she could have a really deep run. I, despite those first two wins, didn't really think it was going to go much further. I thought she might beat Tomljanovic, but I thought she might fall at the fourth round, where I think Samsonova, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, was ready to stand in the way. And Tomljanovic, of course, beating Samsonova, as I'm going to say it double to get it right.
It's Samsonova.
Samsonova, is it? Thanks, Nick. Bloody hell, his return position, Casper Ruud. I mean, even on for a hard court, it does seem to be particularly deep, particularly on the second serve, which was just 88 miles an hour from Alcaraz there as he gets to 30 love. Maybe Casper Ruud has got to do something different regarding that return position. I'm going to go off a bit of a tangent here. Anybody else with me on this, because I've not really heard anyone else talk about this, was that the Garcia return position against Ons Jabeur in the semi-final, I think did get exposed. There was a second serve from Jabeur, that Garcia just, and this was right near the end of the match, by the time I thought that really by now Garcia should be mixing up her return position, she just didn't even react. It was almost a second serve ace. It was almost a second serve ace. Vanch, oh my goodness, what a point we got here. It's going to be in. Is Alcaraz going to run it down? He is. He goes for the lob, doesn't work. Goes to the backhand. What a good volley there from, and it's good enough to win the point. Ruud, maybe point of the match so far. That was an excellent point. But listen, yeah, I know. That's another great point. And this time it's Ruud who comes off the better. That was a 12-shot rally that was like back and forth. We had another one where Alcaraz is running down a lob, but tries to get a lob back, but actually ends up being a sort of a semi-smash, if you like, from Ruud, and he closes it out, the Norwegian, with a lovely drop volley that even Speedy Gonzalez couldn't make. Yeah, so Vanch, I saw you sort of nod and agree with me slightly regarding that Garcia point.
Yeah, I agree. It worked for Garcia the last 3 months. That's why she's been on this streak. But I was surprised she didn't. I was both surprised and not surprised, because I feel like in the past maybe it was like kind of a reversion back to the old Garcia that we were used to seeing, because you know how like when you're in a semis, you kind of have just find that balance between like believing in your game and believing like that game is good enough to win matches. And believing in your tactic and Old Faithful versus like adjusting. And I didn't feel like she did a whole lot of the latter.
Right. I was.
And Ons Jabeur was just really, really good with her serve that day. Like she was hitting all of her spots, and
she got 8 aces in that semi-final, and she got 0 in the final against Iga, which of course is also partly because of Iga's ability to return or at least get her racket on it. But I do think, of course, Iga standing much further back. Here we got Alcaraz almost in. He's almost in Virginia. He's so far back on the serve here. Anyway, as Alcaraz is now going to be facing break point. Feels like a long time since I've said that. Probably sometime near the beginning of the first set. I don't think there's been one in the second set, not to the best of my knowledge. This could be a big moment for Ruud. 30-40 on the Alcaraz serve. I'm going to take us through this point, and then I'm going to come to Isabel. But I'll come to you at the end of this point. It'll either be juice or it'll be a break of serve for Casper Ruud. Let's see how this pans out. 30-40 on the serve here. Is he going to get the first serve in? Alcaraz will be desperate to do so. Ruud yet to break serve. He's had 3 break points so far in the match. Here we go. Second serve to look at, Casper. Second serve, as you sort of go so far back, you almost wander off my screen. I can just see your headband. That's about it. Anyway, here we go. Alcaraz second serve. Forehand return. Now it's on the backhand of Casper Ruud. Forehand down the line from Alcaraz. It's enough to put himself in charge of the point. Is it enough to win it? A lofted shot there that ends up being a lob. Oh, it goes long. It goes long from Alcaraz. It's a break of serve for the Norwegian. For a minute there, I thought that Alcaraz was going to run that lob down and ultimately turn around and do one of his unbelievable passing winners. Didn't turn out that way. Ruud gets the break of serve. Game on, Isabel.
Whoa.
She's You're happy, right? You're on mute, by the way. You're on mute, but we can see you smiling.
Oh, that was so sexy.
Yeah.
Isabel, we're live.
That was ultimate slutty behavior from Casper.
Whoa.
Make sure you follow at the tennis slut, aka Isabel. Maybe I should say Isabel, aka I'm not sure. But anyway, make sure you give her a follow on Twitter. But yeah, listen, what are your thoughts now? It's game on, right?
Like I said earlier, I think Casper just had to raise his level a lot. I don't think I disagree with Owen. I don't think it's going to be a 6-4, 6-4, 6-4 match. You know, I think I've really been impressed with Casper this whole tournament, and I think he's had kind of a dreamy run. More so than his Roland Garros run for sure. And I think he really knows how to beat Alcaraz, and I think he's got some advantages. And yeah, I knew he would raise his level, and here we are. So I think he'll take this set.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look around Twitter to see what people are saying. John Wertheim, albeit this was 20 minutes ago, said, anyone else think we're going to lose Carlito and simply go with Carlos? Oh, he's talking about the nickname. I don't know. I think people quite like Carlitos, no? Don't they, Vanch? The name?
I like it.
Yeah,
I love
it's
it.
cute. So diminutivo, as they would say in Spanish. As Ruud goes for a forehand into the net, he won't love that very much. It's now 15-30. The last thing Ruud will want to do is, having finally broken Alcaraz's serve midway through this second set, is to then quickly lose his own. And there's a little bit of anxiety here for the Norwegian, with obviously 15-30. Just to remind everybody who is tuning in that, of course, we have got the world number one on the line today. I'm sure that many of you have been aware of that, but I'm just reminding you one final time. Second serve here for Casper Ruud. Alcaraz, I'm sure, will be looking to attack this. Doesn't actually attack as much as I thought he would. That's a strange point. What's going to happen now? We've got a
Oh my God.
I need to see this.
Holy.
I'm always behind.
What?
Yeah, I know. What? Listen, I'm going to come to you, Vance. Let me know when you've seen the point, and then I'll come to you on this, because you're just a few seconds behind.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, you've got
He's
it.
made that shot so many times this tournament, that kind of back facing away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I remember I remember attempting that when I was getting coached when I was a teenager, and my coach telling me only Tim Henman could do that.
Tim Henman's a very good tennis player, but not sure how often many people have used the line only Tim Henman could do that, unless of course it's losing Wimbledon semi-finals. Anyway, listen, Vance, what were your thoughts on that point?
Oh
yeah, that was good backhand overhead to finish, but that net cord and the whole going behind the back, that was a crazy point. But it looks like he's down break point now.
He's now down a break point, so I'll talk us through this. 30-40, gets the first serve in. It's big. It's good enough to win the point with what is undoubtedly an unreturnable, because Alcaraz gets his racket on it, but it flies way out. 127 miles an hour from Casper Ruud, a.k.a. Servebot 2.0. It's now at deuce. Never did I think I was going to call Casper Ruud a serve bot, but we're heading in that direction. Anyway, just a joke. Deuce. Okay, here we go. Second serve for Alcaraz to look at here. This is obviously would be another big hole. We've had one or two of these already from Ruud in this set. It's at deuce. What I thought was going to be a good backhand return didn't work out that way. Goes into the net, and it's now game point Casper Ruud, as Alcaraz actually screams to himself. I saw a bit of this. I think it was in the match against Sinner, actually. Is that kind of normal for him to sort of show so much frustration, Alcaraz, particularly towards his team in that Sinner match, Nick?
I kind of lost the question there.
Sorry, it was so long-winded. I do apologize. Basically, Alcaraz showed some signs of frustration towards his team in the Sinner match. Is that kind of normal for Alcaraz to do that?
Yeah, it can be sometimes. He can get a bit demonstrative with his box, as a lot of players are. I wouldn't say it's a uniquely Alcaraz thing. A lovely overhead from Ruud to finish that game.
Very good
that
overhead.
Was high-risk shot, but pulled it off well.
Wow.
Yeah, he's getting this set. It's game. We're game on now.
Casper Ruud, the last 3 games, he is showing a real steeliness and grit digging in here.
If he gets the world number one, he's earned it.
Absolutely,
100%.
Who can take it away from him? You can't argue with the math. I mean, you win a major, you deserve to be number one.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. I actually think the narrative has changed for me a little bit regarding Casper Ruud and the potential world number one status, because now he's got to go and beat Carlos Alcaraz and win a major. That is a huge difference to losing to TFO or whoever in the final. That would be a very different. I mean, imagine TFO won it and then Casper would become that. That's a different. But if he beats Carlos Alcaraz, who is arguably the best player in the world right now, I would have said obviously Rafa Nadal has had the best 2022, and probably that will remain the case given that he's won 2 majors. But if we look at the tennis over the last, I guess Roland Garros apart over the last 6 months, Alcaraz has been the most consistent performer, obviously winning in Miami, get to the semi-finals in Indian Wells, getting the quarterfinals Roland Garros, 4th round at Wimbledon, and then potentially, of course, if he was to win today, Alcaraz has been the best player over the last few months, particularly as Nadal has hardly played. And that would change the narrative, right, regarding Casper Ruud's number one status, Nick?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think he has been quite consistent this year. I mean, last year he was known as the 250 vulture, pick up small tournaments against much lower ranked players. But this year he's actually made the effort to really push in the bigger tournaments. A bit like Andy Murray was never a vulture, but when he came on with Lendl about 10 years ago, he started really pushing to go for the majors and focusing on going deep in there rather than just picking up tournaments where he can. Whereas before that, he was quite a prolific title winner. Mm-hmm. Well, I could see the similar thing happening to Ruud. He's pushing harder in the bigger events, and it's definitely yielding results. Slight as Alcaraz is serving to try and extend the set. I just wanted to quickly say hi, Mum, because I know she's watching, and she's just messaged me going, "Is Isabel a Ruud fan by any chance?" And if so, I just want to double check: is he your number one, or is there? Where does he rank in your favourites?
He's in contention right now to make my personal top 5.
Okay. to be your world number one, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think, Casper, there's a lot more on the line here.
There's the ATP rankings, and then there's Isabel's rankings.
There's the slutty rankings.
And we all know which is the more important.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good serve there from Alcaraz. Yeah, Alcaraz also showing a bit of frustration there between games with a sort of semi smash of the racket down at his bag at least, which is always an interesting
It was not a good drop shot
from Alcaraz.
Yeah.
Just trying to think. I'm actually just paying attention. I'm not sure if you're ahead, behind, or at the same point. I'm at 30-15 to Alcaraz. Where are you at, Vanch?
I'm at 15 also. I'm over
okay. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, regarding that, and there was actually, I did find this yesterday, and I probably didn't mention it in my review of yesterday's final. I should have done, because I had it in my notes, which was that I just felt with Ons for a set and a half really was like, I mean, I remember at one point at the beginning of the second set, I think she was like, I don't know what to do. I think she was obviously 3-love down in that second set. She did well to get it back on serve. But she seemed to be at a loss really as to how to get herself back in the match, and a bit of a lack of belief, I think. And she also, I remember one point, she swiped her racket, and something I don't very often see. You either get a full-on boom on the ground. She actually just sort of did a swipe of the racket and just clipped the ground, if you like, and maintained use of her racket. Unlike, of course, Iga, who was changing her racket at every opportunity, including on championship point, which I thought was a little bit borderline. I know you're an Iga fan, Nick, but what did you think about all these racket changes from Iga?
I thought it was fine. I don't see any issue with it. Like, you don't know whether I don't think she had broken a string. I think she was just, I think she was struggling with the tension a little bit, and she'd lost a little bit in the racket, and she was just in the moment and going, no, I want to have the best racket possible for this point. I don't think it was mind games in any way or anything like that. Oh yeah, who's this? Who have we got?
Hi, Nick.
Hey, Jack.
How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, good. I'm enjoying the final. Just thought I'd stop by and see how everybody was getting on. Been good so far, right?
It has been good. Just quickly before I come to you, Jack, on a broader point here, particularly if we do get, we might even have a set point in a minute. But we'll have a look at that in a second. I've got a point here from Ghost, who actually is mentioning something we did mention a bit earlier on, where we were offering some praise. Vance, you were talking about Carlitos's net play, and do you think that Ferrero has had an influence on that, or just basically a broader point regarding his net play?
I meant it more as a broader point. I'm not sure I can say with confidence that it was Ferrero necessarily. I think he's always had that in his arsenal from what I've watched.
Jack, have you got any thoughts on this match, by the way, so far? Oh, just quickly, I've got championship point. My goodness, I'm getting carried away. We've got a set point here for Casper Ruud. So go on, Jack. Give me a quick 15-20 seconds.
On the point, or just on how I felt the matches went?
Felt the matches going.
Yeah, I think Ruud, obviously, it's rich to say that Ruud winning the set means he's in, like me saying he's in the match. It's not a big statement, but at the same time, it's felt like that since the first set. I don't think there's been much between them at all. It's been one break of serve for Ruud, right? So really not much in it
could
at all.
Could be two in a minute.
Could be 2, yeah, which would obviously be fairly significant. And so it's nearly did it again. Set point, Casper Ruud. I'll just talk us through this just very quickly. Second serve here for Carlitos. Forehand, Casper Ruud into the net, so it's back to deuce. Yeah. Jack, we've probably got a bit more time now, and now it's deuce. Yeah, it really has been nip and tuck, but I don't know. For a set and a half, I still thought it was sort of Alcaraz in control, but actually, it's just slipped away from him in the last 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's quite the rally dynamics are quite interesting. I feel because Carlos's forehand, I think, is genuinely better. I think when it's redlining, certainly it's better than the Ruud's, but it's certainly more inconsistent, and that seems to be the shot that's kind of going about the place a little bit. It's going a bit ski whiff. There's been some odd shot choices as well. I think the drop shot really should be out of Carlos's arsenal tonight, but we've seen it a couple of times over the last few games, a little bit questionably, I would say. So I think maybe his mind's a little bit fried, possibly from the other 5-set matches. I've no doubt he'll bounce back. I mean, we've seen it in 3 consecutive matches, right? So I'm sure he'll find his feet a little bit again.
Does there come a point, Nick, where these 5-set comebacks, and I don't just mean physically, but mentally, does there come a point where actually it does get more difficult to keep doing that and to regain the belief, if you like, each time, as we've got another set point here for Casper Ruud, and in fact a drop shot doesn't work from Alcaraz. Now we've got a smash, and it's there we go, boom, 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 game and second set, Casper Ruud, and I think I'm going to go over to our most neutral observer, aka Isabel, for your thoughts on that second set moment.
Yes.
Yes.
I just, I want it to be a good match. It's not necessarily that I'm rooting for him all the way, but like now we'll at least see 4 sets.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was sure. So no, that was a really good set. I think Casper really raised his level. Was serving a lot better, I think, than he was in the first set. And yeah, Carlos is making a couple more unforced errors, I think, than he was before. So that's not working for him. So.
Yeah, nice. Jack, as I've got you here, obviously that was a really big moment there, and we just were talking about the drop shot really not working in this match, or really perhaps on this surface against Casper Ruud for Carlitos there. Big change really, and what's he doing there, going for the drop shot again?
Yeah, I honestly I'm not sure. I feel like he's kind of clutching at straws a little bit. He might be trying to counter maybe Ruud's position on the court, or trying to counter some of the balls from Ruud, I guess, maybe trying to exploit short balls. At the same time, I think he was talking about this in the press conference and making Carlos play less drop shots by keeping the ball so deep, and that was a tactic going into the match. I feel like he's kind of in his head a little bit, and he's playing great, actually. Like, seriously is. I'm a Ruud fan as of this tournament.
Yeah, listen, I a bit like I felt with Ons Jabeur, maybe a bit different with Casper. I do think he'll have more opportunities, and with Ons, I just don't know. I mean, by the way, Ons could make 3 major finals next year. I'm not saying that is, but I do get the impression with Ons, obviously being a couple of years older than Casper as well, that I don't know how many opportunities she'll get. So I was quite keen for her to do well yesterday. But equally with Casper today, I know that Carlitos is going to be world number 1 one day. I know he's going to win several majors, maybe on all surfaces. Whereas for Casper, the chances will be a bit less often, and therefore I'm kind of rooting for him today as a semi-underdog, and it really has been 50-50. In fact, I imagine, Nick, he's probably up in the points overall tally at the moment, because given the fact that he's obviously got a double break of serve there.
He is, yes. There's been a 7-point swing in his favour. So currently for the whole match, it's 59 points to 55 in Ruud's favour. Now, I just actually interestingly having a look at this set by set stats, and the biggest change I can see is that other than the fact that Ruud's unforced errors dropped, his net points won improved dramatically in that second set.
Yeah, we just had an interesting point there with Carlitos kind of not aiming for Casper there with a forehand, but he certainly put his hand up to apologize. I always think that's a kind of an interesting moment when players you just want to win the point. You're not really thinking about hitting it at your opponent, but your opponent ends up being a quite a useful, what's the word, target or barometer. It's quite an obvious thing to do. But what I think is kind of bizarre is you've just carried out a deliberate act and then you apologize for it. Does that mean make the apology sort of disingenuous? I mean, it's a bit like me just sort of punching someone in the face and then immediately afterwards going, "Oh, I'm sorry about that," and then we just go, "Oh, well, okay. If you apologize for the punch in the face, we can move on." Maybe I'm getting it. Maybe that's not a fair comparison.
It's interesting, actually. I literally did it today. I was just thinking that.
What, you punched someone in the face?
Not punch someone in the face.
Live in Glasgow
on a tennis court. That was
you smack the ball straight at the net player and you go, "Sorry," but at the same time, I did mean that. So
yeah, of course, yeah,
exactly.
So I kind of did tongue in cheek, I guess, John.
Yeah. Isabel, have you ever whacked a tennis ball at someone?
My aim really isn't that good, but
okay.
I've definitely wanted to.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure you've wanted to. I wonder who would be the most fun to do that with. I'm guessing Nick Kyrgios would be a fun one because I don't think he'd take it very well. Something about Nick Kyrgios makes me think he wouldn't take it that well.
He did that to Nadal, of course. Oh, we've got triple
he
point,
did.
By the way.
He did. Yeah, he did do it to Nadal, and yeah. Anyway, listen, I love 40 here. Alcaraz has got 3 break points. This will be huge at the beginning of his third set to get that momentum going back in his way. We've got a forehand from Ruud across court. Forehand now down the line from Alcaraz. That's a fairly good deep slice there from Ruud. Forehand now Alcaraz. Forehand Ruud. Oh, doesn't quite get that one right. I don't know if he made the right decision there in coming to the net, but either way, as you say, good shot there from Casper Ruud, Jack. So it's 15-40, but still a long way back for him in this service game. Nick, give me something.
Anything. Anything. I mean, it's interesting. Casper's just come out the blocks. Not Casper. Carlos has come out the blocks super quick. I think Ruud's not serving great this game. I don't know whether the situation's got to him a bit. Sort of the resetting between sets has kind of killed his own momentum, but certainly he's playing. Certainly, I think he's giving Alcaraz looks at his serve, and I think Alcaraz was very unfortunate not to break there. So we'll see what happens here. As we're in the rally. From my perspective, forehand Alcaraz, forehand Ruud, out the line, backhand Ruud, backhand Alcaraz. Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah, no, comes into the net again and misses it.
Yeah,
two missed opportunities for Alcaraz.
Was he down for a second?
He was down for a second, but I think he's up now. I can just see him there. It's interesting. I'm actually watching Alcaraz there just recover from. So basically, Alcaraz attacks the net, slides in, hits the volley out. But I'm just looking at Alcaraz. No, he's okay. In fact, he gives the net a good whack to show his frustration with that volley that he put wide. Anyway, 30-40. I'll just talk us through this point because this is still huge, of course. Still facing a break point here. Forehand slice there from Casper Ruud. Backhand slice. They're exchanging slices now like a cake shop. Forehand now from Alcaraz. Thanks for the little chuckle there from whoever that was. I'm not looking. As a drop shot there. This time it works, though, for Alcaraz as the fist pump goes up. That time, the forehand drop shot was the right choice, winning the point, 14-shot rally, 1-love Alcaraz. Jack.
Yeah, slices are an interesting play, I got to say, because I don't think, again, kind of like Sean said yesterday when we were talking about Jabeur, probably not the right play. Carlos is pretty good at dealing with them and doesn't generally respond with as many slices as we just saw there. He normally tends to rip it. So interesting to see him slicing it right back, but I kind of felt like it was up to Carlos to take the initiative if Ruud kept slicing it, basically. So probably the wrong play again.
Yeah, and Ghibli, I hope I'm saying your name right there. I'm probably butchering it, but never mind. That obviously on that occasion, that drop shot did work out. I mean, it's not something you should just dismiss, especially with Casper Ruud, who does tend to be pretty deep. But it did seem like he was overusing it somewhat during that second set, and fine, use it as and when, but not really a go-to tactic for today on this surface, I would suggest. How quick is Ruud? We all know about the speed of Alcaraz. Would you suggest that Ruud is almost up there in terms of speed, Vanch?
Or you're muted, Vanch.
I do think Ruud has looked quite good in terms of his movement and speed this tournament, and definitely he's improved with his movement on hard courts. I think he's a pretty efficient mover. He hits pretty big to big targets, so I don't think he really. If it comes to just sprints and just straight up speed, then yeah, I mean Alcaraz is ahead of everyone. So I would say the same for Ruud.
Yeah, it's
as
like
well.
on the run, isn't it?
Like
I think
on
the
the
word.
run.
I think the word efficient just comes to mind with Ruud in general. Vanch.
Yeah, completely agree. Just very efficient in general.
Okay, so now Alcaraz here looking a little bit comfy on his serve. Yeah, who of course Alcaraz was fairly comfortable on his serve throughout the match until I think it got broken. Was it maybe twice in a row in that second set that ultimately meant that Ruud could make it one set all? But now we've got a sort of a momentum shift back towards the Spaniard, who's obviously 40 love up now. I say obviously, you don't necessarily know that, but I'm telling you, 1 love, 40 love. Juan Carlos Ferrero, by the way, as a coach, does seem to get the camera on him quite a lot. I don't know why. I mean, I know we know the Moratoglu thing and all that, and he seemed to get the camera on him at every opportunity. In fact, sometimes it looked like he was running in front of the camera just so he could get on it. But I don't know this tournament in particular. Nothing wrong with it, but the camera does seem to pan to Juan Carlos Ferrero a lot. I don't know if that's because Alcaraz sort of looks that way. That's a drop shot there from Ruud. This is turning into an interesting point as Ruud attacks the net. Does another? Oh, you can't teach that. You can't teach that. That was an excellent half volley there. Ruud playing that point really, really well. In fact, if you didn't know otherwise, you might well have thought Ruud had turned into Carlos Alcaraz there with A, some of the drop shots, and B, just some of the exquisite nature of the shots, including that lob. He then comes into
Ruud. Well done, my
I
boy.
know. Casper Ruud, take a bow, my friend. Nick, what are your thoughts on that point and the match as a whole right now?
I mean, that was an incredible point. That's the kind of point I would have expected Carlos Alcaraz to win. So when you started asking, John, I thought Alcaraz had pulled off something incredible.
Me too.
I know it was.
Yeah.
And then he did a really good back behind over the shoulder shot as Alcaraz aces to serve out the game and contain the break. But then Ruud just comes up with a moment of magic of his own to just go, nah, I'm winning this point. This is mine. Like I see you and I raise this.
This goes back to the point that Nick just brought up, what we were talking about earlier, John, which is that he makes the opponent raise his level and come up with something special to beat him. And you start seeing some of the elements of his game rub off on his opponents. I've seen this a lot now the last year.
I think Ghost in the chat, by the way, has solved the mystery that I raised about why Juan Carlos Ferrero is on our screen so often. It's simply that he's just a very good-looking guy.
Can't argue with that, yeah.
Can't argue with that. No, that's true, yeah.
Christian Ruud's not bad looking either, to be fair.
True, but how old is Juan Carlos Ferrero, by the way?
Yeah, it's true.
He's 42. He's just a year older than Roger and Andy. So not that old.
Andy Roddick's age is always a funny one because he seems to have been off the scene for, well, as we mentioned earlier, like 11 years. Yeah. And yet he's still basically, he's basically the same age as Roger Federer, isn't he, Andy Roddick?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
He's actually a year younger.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah. So it's, they're from the same generation, I guess.
And you're getting some praise here from Ghost here, Vanch, that just basically, Alcaraz manages to raise. Maybe if I played Alcaraz, maybe my level would be insane. Yeah. Don't know. That would really be putting it to the test. Listen, if you are watching, make sure you hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Jack, by the way, I know you sort of suggested earlier you could dip in and dip out. You're more than welcome to stay with as long as you want, but equally, if you have got other things to do, feel free to disappear and return. Anyway, Nick, give me some thoughts here at 2 love for Alcaraz.
Yeah, really good start for Alcaraz in this set. Definitely seems to be playing far better. He's currently on 100% wins on his first serve. He's got 80% of them in, so he's serving far better already this set. Okay, he's only served for one service game, but that tells you something. I think generally he's been a lot more positive, a lot more assertive, and I think Ruud's levels dropped a bit potentially. I don't know, but definitely out. I think maybe he's rattled by. I think it started off with Ruud's level dropping and Alcaraz taking advantage, and I think now Alcaraz has got Ruud a little bit rattled. having said that, I expect Ruud to hold here. I just wanted to quickly, actually, there's a question I've been on my mind for a while, if it's okay to ask sort of the opinion of Vanch and Jack. Ruud's return position, we talked about it earlier, being really deep quite often. Would you say that's deeper than Rafa?
It must be similar, right? And it probably depends on the surface as well, probably.
Probably the same thing.
But deep on a fast hard court. Sorry, Vanch, I talked over you.
Go on, Vanch.
Oh no, I was going to say it's probably in the same vein. I think this tournament I've noticed he's tried to alter it a little bit. He's tried to, give himself more options on the second serve return, especially now because his backhand is flatter and he does take it earlier. I think it's nice for him that he has that option to step in. It's just that I think he's a little wary of the Alcaraz kick serve. So maybe he just thinks, if I just back up a little bit and I can get a little bit more air under it and then maybe get back to neutral, that might help at least, so I'm not defending the whole time.
I've actually got to something quickly to add, if that's okay, Nick, on this. I actually think it might be deeper than the Rafa return position. I saw in Australia actually Rafa really mixing up his return position, and not always necessarily down to the size of serve he was facing. I saw him mix it up a lot, and I have noticed Rafa more in his latter years on a hard court, actually coming in a bit closer. I remember a match that Rafa had against Zverev in Paris-Bercy in 2020 behind closed doors, and Rafa actually lost that match in straight sets, and he said afterwards, it was for a set and a half, I was stood too far back, and it was actually when he started to attack the serve and actually come in with a closer return position, so to speak, he actually started to make an impression on Zverev's serve, but by then it was too late. I believe he lost that match in straight sets. It might have gone to 3, but and I saw in Australia this year, and it may well have been Gil Gross also suggesting that Rafa was mixing up his return position quite a lot more. He's also somebody who's talked a lot more in his latter career about taking the ball a bit earlier, of course, because you probably don't want to have such lengthy points as such. But yeah, I think Ruud may be deeper than most. But I also think that's a good point about the kick serve from because I was thinking, why are you so far back on a second serve? Well, he has got a good kick serve. Go on, Jack.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it's all centered around the forehand. He probably will, any opportunity he can get to get his forehand into play is probably a plus for Ruud. So the further back you are, the more time you've got to run around it. It's got to be a brilliant second serve to get it to his backhand, basically.
Big hold there from Ruud, Vanch.
Yeah, that was a big hold. He saved a break point as well, and that could have potentially been the set. So he gives himself a fighting chance to stay in this. Yeah,
absolutely. As I've got an advert now coming up because you all want to know about that for a match between the Broncos and the Seahawks. I think it's American football. There's a hawk as well. That's great for the Seahawks to actually have a hawk flying over the stadium. Monday Night Football, which I'm guessing is going to occur tomorrow. That's something to look forward to if American football is your game. Won't be doing a watch along for that, mainly just because I have very little idea about American football. I know they do celebrate throw-ins, which I think is always kind of interesting. Vanch, are you an American football fan?
Not so much. I used to have a few teams that I would support, mainly because I'm from San Diego, and usually the Chargers don't do very well. But now they moved to LA, so.
By the way, a few teams reminds me of some of these tennis Twitter accounts that you see where it says love tennis, favorite players, Iga, Rafa, Berrettini, and they just list about 18 players, and I'm thinking. You've got a pretty good chance at every slam you go into to supporting the winner, and that's always an interesting one. Isabel, are you an American football fan?
God, no.
Yeah, it's not really my thing either. So
I wish I listen. I know I've sort of joked about it, but I actually wish I did like it, so it'd give me something else to do. You'd think I wouldn't want more TV time, but I do yearn it. I remember I lived in Costa Rica for about 7-8 months, and there was a bar nearby that I used to hang out in on a Monday night. Really good chicken wings there, and I used to try to get involved, but I didn't really still understand what the hell was going on. But there we go. That was a pity because it's always cool to have more sports in your bow, so to speak, if that is even an expression. Alcaraz here leading 2-1. Jack, give me some thoughts on what's going on this tennis court right now.
just classic sort of peaks and troughs of Carlos. And when we talk about troughs of Carlos, they're not even really, they're not that low, really, are they? Yeah, it's not surprising he's come out in the third set and he's been able to sort of take control of the match. Again, I stand by it. His forehand's probably bigger than the Ruud. So if he can start getting into play again, when they go cross court, he wins that battle for sure. And his backhand's probably better too, honestly. So yeah, just generally in a rally, if everything's going well for Alcaraz, then he tends to be the one that comes out on top. But Ruud was doing an amazing job of keeping things kind of neutral in the second set and making him overheat. That's kind of what he has to hope for. Make Alcaraz overheat basically rather than it him.
Yes.
I had a question for Jack,
Badge.
actually. I can ask it to the rest of the group as well. You guys can jump in.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of just sheer X's and O's in this matchup, is there any that you would give Ruud an edge in? For me, it might be the first serve, just because Alcaraz.
Definitely.
Ruud definitely has had more aces throughout this whole tournament, and he hits his spots better.
Yeah, he's got a brilliant the juice slider in particular. He hits that really well. Although I've kind of seen Carlos covering that a bit, and actually he's taken it away from Ruud a wee bit. Definitely hits the first serve better for sure.
But apart from that, I'm struggling to come up with others, to be honest.
That's it.
I have got something to say on the serve in a second. I will come back to that in a second. But just quickly, Carlos Alcaraz attacked the net there. Probably the right thing to do. But he really skewed his backhand volley very far wide. And there was another moment of frustration where he waxed the net. Maybe he wants to whack that net hard so far that it actually comes down a notch or two. So it makes him be able to hit the ball over. Don't know. But listen, on a wider point regarding the serve, interestingly, I would have agreed with everything you've both said regarding Carlos having not quite as good a first serve as Casper Ruud, and this tournament thus far backing that up. And I know we can't take a lot of stock from just aces, and there's so much other things to take into account. But last I saw, the ace count from this match was actually 6-0 in Carlos's favor, which is a little unusual. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Vanch.
Probably just has to do with the great returning of Alcaraz. He's a better returner maybe overall in general. So
yeah.
And it could be, I was going to say it could be down to him covering that serve. It does actually look like he's taking a few steps forward. And I've seen Ruud beat Alcaraz a few times already with serves down the tee without acing him. So he's like already leaning over to his right, and the forced error comes because he's moving over to his right. So it could be that.
Yeah. I think Carlos would have done his homework with Ferrero and known that was Ruud's best serve, that slider out wide.
By the way, Alcaraz facing 2 break points has just saved the furs with an excellent serve and volley. That was the volley there was just perfection from the Spaniard, but he's still facing another break point here, so it's still touch and go. Of course, Carlos is a break up at the moment, 2-1 in this third set, but he's facing break point. I'll talk us through this point. Is he going to get the first serve in? Yes, he does. No, he doesn't. Sorry, he goes a bit long on that one. So it's a second serve here for Casper Ruud to look at. 30-40 here, Carlos Alcaraz serving. Is he going to get his second serve in? Of course, he'll need to do so, and he does. Backhand of Casper Ruud. Goes into the net. Break of serve, and we are back on serve at 2-all. Does that suggest, Nick, that with the momentum right now is maybe with the Norwegian?
Possibly, actually. I mean, that was quite a lackluster game from Alcaraz. Again, I've got the live stats in front of me. Although I said his winning on first serve percentage is still pretty high, although his first serve in percentage has dropped because of that game. He's 0 from 4 second serve points won this set, and that's after 2 service games. He can't afford to keep that level up if through the next service games. Otherwise, Ruud is going to break him again and take the third set. So, yeah, right now, that was a bit of a lapse from Alcaraz, and that's a concerning sign if you're a fan of Spaniard.
That might have been the worst service game he's played so far. Just the number of...
The final or this tournament?
No. In this match, not in the whole tournament.
I mean, the way he lost that by netting on that last shot just felt a bit something you would very rarely say about Alcaraz. Did just feel a bit lackluster. I think I'm just echoing Nick's points there. I mean, we've used so many adjectives to describe Alcaraz's performances, but lackluster is certainly not one of them. Once again, they're just popping up the time on court, and I believe we are probably approaching that 2-hour mark that we highlighted earlier. It's about now. I would suggest that we're at the 2-hour mark. Of course, I think it's 2 hours and 9. That was basically if Alcaraz wins the match. It's 1 hour 53 right now, but if Alcaraz wins the match, he will clearly exceed the time that Rafa spent on court in Australia this year, which was the previous record set to win a major. Interestingly, by the way, the stat, of course, means almost nothing. But hello, it's an interesting point that Casper Ruud wins. I mean, it's almost irrelevant, but there's possibly been a runner-up who spent more time on court than 22 odd hours. I mean, it's sort of a salient point, and may well have explained why they ended up finishing runner-up in the final if they were on court for 23 or 24 hours in a particular tournament. Do you think, Jack, that is going to play a part at all in the next couple of sets regarding Alcaraz's time on court?
No, genuinely don't. He's defied all logic the last 3 matches. I don't think it will. Genuinely.
Isabel, I guess given that Casper Ruud has now got it back on serve, you must be a fairly happy bunny right now.
I don't want to jinx it. Carlos has been down some breaks and down a set, in previous matches. So I have no doubt that he'll gain a little momentum after this, but it's nice to see Casper kind of fighting pretty hard, because I think a lot of people just expect him to kind of lay down in this match and let Carlos run over him, but I'm really happy to see that he's not doing that.
Talking of fighting hard there, he's just got a forehand winner that landed in by basically a millimeter. And so he won that point to go 40-15. And also talking about fighting, Owen on Twitter at Tennis Nation, his handle, just saying an unbelievable point from Ruud from about half an hour ago, if you remember that unbelievable point. Anyway, said he feels like that this could get him back into the match. And he said he's never seen Casper celebrate so emphatically. Fairly understated normally, the Norwegian on court, but he's certainly fairly pumped today as he takes a 3-2 lead. They are on serve, but as I highlighted before, perhaps having lost his serve earlier does feel like there is a bit of momentum building with the Norwegian as well. Nick, give me some thoughts.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Casper's playing this match so well right now, other than sort of fairly early on, was a little bit more tight in comparison to Alcaraz. He settled down. He's got on with it. He's played really well. He's got his forehand into play, which is what he needs to do. He's thrown in some other lovely bits of variety in there to compete with Alcaraz. I think this is the kind of performance that it probably won't, because there'll be people who will refuse to back down on their opinion, because that's what Twitter is for. But I don't think this should be the kind of performance that would cause people to question those who kind of underrate him, or say that he is overrated, to kind of maybe rethink their position. And I'm saying this as someone who, if you asked me 12 months ago, would have said Casper Ruud is an overrated tennis player. And now I've this whole year has won me back to him as actually, that promise that that's people saw that I didn't is there, and I was wrong on that point. So yeah, this performance has been really well. You would think he's a seasoned Grand Slam veteran.
I said the same thing about him, Nick, after Roland Garros. I said, he got lucky. He's got no reason to be in the top 5. I was like, he's completely overrated, and my mind has also changed.
Yeah, I just love how Casper is absolutely aware of all of that too. Like he knows people underrate him on a regular basis, and he just takes it on the chin and he's like, right, I'll prove you wrong. And I just love that about him. He has that little bit of prove the doubters wrong in him in a way, and it's like, oh, Scott, oh my God.
But we're not laughing at you. We're laughing at Scott. We're laughing at Scott's. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And I got to interview him twice last year at the San Diego Open, which he won. The 250 that he won on hard court, and it was a strong field actually. Like he had to beat some good players, including Murray. So Scott, if you're listening,
and Norrie.
and Norrie in the final, who he absolutely thrashed. And I asked him afterwards, I asked him some questions about his matches and tactics, and he was the only player that I asked who actually was so insightful and gave me like 2 to 3 minute answers, like detailed about his backhand, about his return of serve position, about his variety. Like he's just so good, and he like looks you in the eye, and he gives. I love listening to him speak because he's just so honest, and he's very smart about his game.
I loved his interview with The Slice.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
had Stephen on the podcast recently. He's a very cool guy. Anyway, he did an interview with him, and the quote he'd put on Twitter was, "I'd love to play anybody that thinks I'm a pusher." Basically, he's quite salty. It was funny, actually.
Yeah.
Salty in about the saltiest way you could imagine Casper Ruud. It was still kind of said with a smile on his face and stuff, but just like, anybody thinks I'm a pusher, I'll play them.
What about something there's been so many tennis stories this year, but there is one that I've actually just forgotten about, but been reminded of: the Holger Rune Casper Ruud fallout at the French Open. That was kind of amusing, wasn't it, Jack?
Yeah, that was so funny. That was so funny. That was one of the moments of the year. I mean, it just kept delivering. Every time I went on Twitter, there was another little development, and yeah, it's worth checking out if you've not seen it. Just if you can sort of laugh at tennis players, I guess, because in essence, actually, I kind of made Rune seem like quite a horrible person, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, where do we stand on? I haven't really formed a strong opinion on Holger Rune yet.
Do you want something that'll
go on?
No,
yeah,
well, yeah, okay. To be fair, now he is young, and a lot of people say you can give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in this one. But probably the most egregious and famous or infamous error of his, I guess, was when he was playing a match at challenger level, I believe, maybe ITF level, and on court he said the F word, as in the homophobic F word.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I believe his opponent, I think, but maybe he said he was talking about himself in hindsight. Either way, he didn't really apologise for it. A lot of backlash, obviously, because, I mean, he should have held his hands up after saying that. I don't know how he didn't. And yeah, of course, rightly so. A lot of people don't like him now, basically. He's not really owned it. John.
Right. Okay. So that's I didn't actually know about that. I don't know if you all know about that. That's a real shame. I mean, there is a way back from these, let's say, insensitive and not particularly bright comments. I mean, Medvedev, didn't he have a moment with a racist comment that he made during a match? I can't remember who against. I hope I'm not slurring Medvedev here incorrectly. Everyone's looking a bit puzzled, so I apologize, Daniel Medvedev. If you do, you know anything I'm talking about here, Vanch?
Yeah, I think it was in the 2016 Savannah Challenger against Donald Young. I remember.
Oh my goodness, I've seen that, Vance. Yeah, that you'll know.
Yeah, and he had an incident where he also threw coins at the umpire. That was 2017 Wimbledon. But at least Medvedev, he owns it, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
He owns it, and he's very aware about it, and he.
I would say about that challenger one. I mean, the idea that was intended as racist, or
that was questionable, wasn't it? Because
I think that's a stretch for sure. He basically implied the umpire and Donald Young were friends, based on their race, basically. Okay. And that's what the implication was in hindsight, but I don't know. I think it was just saying they were friends, basically. I think that was a bit of a stretch to imply he was being racist.
Got it. Okay, listen, I've been a bit distracted, of course, as I think we all have from various points here, but Nick has remained steadfast in his vision on this match. So, Nick, tell us what's been like through your eyes over the last couple of minutes.
Alcaraz had a really good service hold earlier for 3-all. Came back from that really poor service game to hold really strongly to 15. Really, really good service game, and we're seeing another really solid service game from Casper Ruud. Interestingly, although it's weird, his first serve isn't going into play that much. His first serve percentage is actually first serve in is only 52%. He's only winning 50% of his first serves, but his second serve percentage is incredibly high. He's protecting his second serve really well this set. And I don't know why that. I'm not entirely sure what he's doing. But yeah, that I thought that was an interesting point. But yeah, so far, I think the set's tightening up.
Maybe comment of the day here. I'm going to put up on the screen. Hello.
Hello, Ashley.
The good thing is that we don't know how many. Maybe she's saying five hotties. Maybe she's saying 2. I like the vagueness of it. We can all take it, and we can all think it's about me, if you like, if you wish. But listen, Ashley, great to have you on board, and I do want to speak to you at some point. Again, I know we've touched base with each other on Twitter with a potential interview, and I do definitely want to have you on board and have a good chat with you. Maybe about your US Open experience or perhaps something a bit broader. I believe, Ashley, you are a Rafa fan. Am I right on that one? I think you are. I think I did to spaces that you hosted regarding Nadal. But it would be great to speak to you about Rafa, the US Open, maybe even a bit of Serena Williams as well. I know you were there for the weekend, last weekend, so it'd be also good to speak to you about that. But I'll touch base with you again very soon on that, Ashley. But great to have you on board. Make sure you hit that like button. Maybe you can repeat the amount of likes from various different accounts regarding the number of hotties we have on board today. But by the way, maybe she just means Carlos Alcaraz, and maybe she means Carlos Alcaraz and Casper Ruud. It has nothing to do with us. I've gone down a very egotistical alleyway with that. But anyway, listen, talking of Casper Ruud, he has just held, if I'm right, I've been distracted a few times during this set, 4-3. Jack, give me your thoughts right now.
My mic might be a little bit funny. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's kind of rolling with serve at the moment. Honestly, after talking about Holger Rune, actually, I've not seen the last game, so I can't tell you much more than that, I'm afraid.
Don't worry. Vanch, have you got any thoughts right now?
No, but it looks like Ruud is just holding pretty comfortably. I do have one thought, actually. I think Alcaraz is pretty close to breaking that record we were talking about. He's almost hitting the 2-hour 9-minute mark.
Yeah, and there's obviously a long way to go yet.
Now, let's say he doesn't win this match for some reason, Alcaraz, and Ruud plays really well or whatever happens. He can still break the record of Kevin Anderson at 23 hours and 20 minutes for the whole tournament of the 2018 Wimbledon. So he'd need a little more time than
that's not ages.
Yeah, if he can get to 3 hours and 1 minute, then he'll have broken it.
Which he almost certainly will. I would have thought it's 2 hours and 5 right now. Assuming this, even if he was to win this set and then the final set 6-love, it'll be pushing that. I was going to say something interesting, or at least it was interesting for me, but now that thought has slipped my mind, unfortunately. Isabel, have you got any thoughts right now? I mean, is Casper Ruud more likely to win this match than he was at the beginning? I mean, as I said, there has been a momentum shift, and he is at least 4-3 up in this third set. Are you feeling more confident about Ruud's chances than you were at the beginning of the match? I mean, you were sort of bigging up those chances beforehand, Isabel.
Yeah, I'm definitely more confident now. But like I said before, like I don't expect Carlos to let this get away from him easily. So, but I definitely think Casper has a really good chance of winning this match.
Rightly or wrongly, if oh wow, that's an excellent shot there from Casper Ruud that helps him win that point down the line. I think rightly or wrongly, I do think if Ruud was to win this match, whether it be in 4 or 5 sets, I do think the tired narrative is one that's going to be repeated a few times. I've already seen John Wertheim on Twitter just recently just saying that. And by the way, I don't know, is it Wertheim or Wertheim? Vanch, do you know if it's Wertheim or Wertheim for John?
I think it's Wertheim.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think it's Wertheim. Yeah.
A Wertheim. Oh, was a third one there.
I thought it was Wertheim.
Yeah,
like it's kind of a silent.
Let's call him John. And he has suggested that he thinks that the tiredness from Alcaraz is beginning to show. He's not ruling out Alcaraz from this match, but he's certainly suggesting that fatigue is beginning to show from the Spaniard. I know that Jack is not subscribing to that theory, but whatever. I do think if Ruud does win it, that'll be something that people will sign up for.
To be fair,
go on, Jack.
Maybe Ruud knows something I don't, because he's just that. I mean, that first point, he just played like 4 slices in a row. Maybe he's trying to make Alcaraz use his legs a bit. Maybe he's trying to tire him out. Maybe there's more to it than I believe, I guess.
Yeah. That was interesting to see so many slices. That'll be interesting to see if he pursues that. Sometimes it's just, for me at least, it just feels like the slice is the natural shot to hit rather than necessarily a tactic. But often it can be. I remember Rafa, for example, using it to good effect against Medvedev in 2019 and to some extent again in 2022 in Australia. Okay, so it's 15 all now, 4-3. Nick, is Ruud going to win this set?
I think it's going to be close.
You have been saying tiebreak pretty much throughout this set, right?
I still think tiebreak is on the cards. Although Alcaraz has just gone wide with that backhand, and again, it's a little bit lethargic again, a bit like that second game. I don't know whether maybe it's something about that end of the court he doesn't like, but Alcaraz is in trouble here. I think that was a very weird backhand wide.
Didn't really get his feet in the right position either. That was interesting. And he didn't take the break point at Love 2 either. He would have been double break up. Ooh, but to be fair, Ruud saved it pretty well.
And it's now a good forehand winner there from Alcaraz to make it 30 all. I'm just going to take you through these little comments here from Scott. First of all, loving the fact that I lose my train of thought mid-sentence. It happens so often, perhaps slightly more often on air than off it. Don't know. Ashley there responding with a suggestion as to why I lost my train of thought. Quite possibly, Ashley. And then Scott coming back there with a suggestion, just facts. From Ashley there. Good banter, or otherwise in the live chat. Alcaraz now with a game point, service speed 117 miles an hour. First serve points won in this set, 11 out of 13 from Alcaraz, 7 out of 13 from Ruud. So getting first serve in place seems to be a fairly even thing between both players. But actually, Alcaraz just nudging ahead on first serve points won. Maybe he's going slightly big on his first serve. Don't know, as Ruud nets his backhand, and it's now 4 all. Alcaraz there looking pretty pumped.
That was great. I feel like the 15-30 point was massive when he had that forehand to put away. I feel like when Ruud was testing him with a slice in the first point, and Alcaraz was just trying to sort of find a way through with the forehand, it was a little bit difficult for him to find power on it, to find a way up in the point. So for him to just get that quick serve +1, massive. And it's just classic or Alcaraz, to be honest, just to be able to deliver that on a big point.
Yeah.
Alcaraz hasn't won a tiebreak this tournament.
Oh, has he not?
That would be interesting if it goes to a tiebreak, right?
Wow. The opposite of Tiafoe, of course, who's I think won 8 out of 8, which I think is a US Open record, at just one tournament alone. Wow. How many tiebreaks has he been in, though?
Quite a few, I think.
2 against Tiafoe. The
Wasn't
2
there
against
one
Sinner.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. So hang on a second. Was that Casper Ruud hasn't won a tiebreak, or Alcaraz hasn't won one?
No, Alcaraz.
Oh, wow.
Alcaraz has lost 2 tiebreaks against Sinner and 2 tiebreaks against Tiafoe.
Wow, so that's a fairly, now we've got four in there. That's a sample size. I don't know what his record is for the year. That would be quite interesting, because that might suggest that there's a bit of a broader issue. I guess losing a tiebreak against a pumped up Tiafoe with a big serve may be less surprising, especially with Tiafoe's record. But obviously those 2 to Sinner as well would be disappointing. So they may be fresh in his mind should this go to a tiebreak, as Ruud has a 30-love lead here on serve, comes into the net. You'd fancy here, yes, he does win this point there, Alcaraz. So it's 30-15 as a fist pump goes up for that. Yeah, that's a concerning record for Alcaraz. Could you put your finger on why that might be the case, Jack?
So I was just counting his tie breaks there. I don't know actually. Serves, I suppose serves a lot of the time players will actually, to be honest, a lot of the time in tie breaks it tends to rally more often than serves. Then you would get 3 points off serve in normal play. So I'm really surprised by that stat, to be honest. I couldn't give you an answer.
That could have easily, by the way, that 0 for 4 could have easily been 2-2, because against Sinner he had a set point and he got aced, and then against Tiafoe he just missed 2 returns he missed a couple of returns and he had 2 double faults.
He's 19-15 by the way this year in tie breaks.
So that's
19 lost or 19-1?
19-1, 15
lost. Okay. 19-15. Okay, so it's fairly nip and tuck. I mean, just in terms of this tournament, I do get the impression that Alcaraz had a lot of break points, but didn't take advantage maybe in one match. I don't know if that, also would be sort of tie-break related in terms of with the mentality on for example, your mentality on a break point, given that how big it is. I just feel as though sometimes he goes a bit too big on that, and maybe he doesn't quite go in that sort of lockdown mode that we see from someone like Djokovic, who tends to do pretty well in tie breaks. Don't know if there's any sort of thing there, or maybe I'm just building a narrative in my mind, because a player, one of the most aggressive on tour in recent years, has been Dominic Thiem, and yet Dominic Thiem never seemed to have problems in tie breaks. I always thought his record in tie breaks, particularly in 2020, was just insanely good. I remember him beating Rafa in quite a few tie breaks that particular year in Australia, and also at the World Tour Finals, ATP 400 Finals in London. As we've got a rally going on here. What a rally this is turning out to be. Casper Ruud set to win it, is he? Yes, he is. Yes. Boy, oh
That could
boy.
go either way.
That is mental.
Boy, oh boy.
Why does he run that down? Honestly, it's crazy.
Because he's got wheels instead of feet.
Suitcase-esque.
I was gonna say, when you look at the tie breaks that Carlos, like the most important tie breaks of this year, it's kind of different, to be fair. I feel like he's won all the tie breaks he's needed to.
That's true, yeah. It's only really this tournament, right?
There's a few, yeah, certainly Zverev, the French Open comes to mind, but then like Djokovic at Madrid when he had that amazing tiebreak at the end, and then he won the one again. Oh, he lost the one against Berrettini, actually. I forgot about that one. That was quite a big one, I guess. And then he won the one against Sinner as well at Wimbledon, just to keep himself in the match. Maybe when it's a bigger match, I don't know, bigger occasion, and he tends to win most of the time anyway, so.
Yeah, I think most of his losses can just be chalked up to the breakpoint conversion rather than the tie breaks.
Casper Ruud there netting with a fairly easy forehand, I would have thought, and he'll be disappointed with that to mean deuce. Interesting regarding that other epic point that Ruud ended up winning. Alcaraz did lose the point ultimately because he just couldn't quite chase down a forehand shot there, but he was basically flat on his belly on the floor, almost Djokovic-esque in terms of that point that he won remarkably at Wimbledon against Sinner. But he was actually giving a big smile, which to me suggested somebody who's still in a pretty good place, both physically and mentally, even though he lost that point. Of course, he goes on to win the next point, so it's deuce here with Casper Ruud under a little bit of pressure. 2 points from winning the game, but of course 2 points from losing it. No one can ever say, I don't know anything about tennis, given that unbelievable level of expertise there, saying 2 points from winning it and 2 points from losing it. Well, now he's a point from winning it with a failed drop shot attempt there from Alcaraz. Maybe the wrong decision. Easy to sound clever after the event. We can all be Owen Tennis Nation by being clever after the event. But anyway, listen, I've already given Owen enough stick already on Twitter, and I'm sure he'll give it back to me very shortly.
To be fair, I was going to say big credit to how much Ruud is making Alcaraz play drop shots, to be fair, because if you look at the Sinner match and how many drop shots Alcaraz played in that match, I mean, it must have been a handful, literally. The speed of the ball and the way he was able to work the rally from the back of the court against somebody who was smacking the ball like Sinner was fantastic, but he didn't feel like he had to drop the ball short to win the point. I feel like Ruud's tactics it's kind of paying off, just keeping it deep and not pushing necessarily, but just making Alcaraz play something more than he needs to normally.
Listen, I'm going off at a tangent here. It's on serve 5-4, so obviously a bit of pressure for Alcaraz to hold his 4-5 down. But I'm just going to go off at a slight tangent. Owen and I have had a quick chat about doing actually, we are such tennis nerds that we want to do a watch along for our preferred match of the year. And I said to him, what is your most memorable match of the year? And him and I are probably going to do a watch along at some point during the quieter weeks that are to come. And we're going to watch we're going to watch Rafa Nadal against Djokovic from the French Open quarterfinal this year. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning that is not just to promote that notion, but actually to ask you all, what have been, if you can all give it, you've got some time to think about this. I'm going to ask you for one match, either on the men's or the women's side, that has been the most memorable of the year for you. For me, it is the Australian Open final of Nadal and Medvedev, closely followed by that, on the men's side at least, closely followed by that Sinner and Alcaraz match from a couple of days ago.
Wait. Do you mean
those two matches are vetoed then, I guess?
Well, no, not vetoed. I mean, you can back me up on one or both of those. The problem I had, and I'm going to come to Isabel and Nick on this as well in a second, is actually the problem I had is to think of some epic matches on the women's side. But give you all some time to think about maybe some women epic matches. But yeah, go ahead, Jack.
No. All I was saying was, I mean, the center Alcaraz is my match of the year for
Fine.
sure. So I mean,
100% with Jack.
Yeah.
100% agree,
Vanch was
because-
crazy about it on the pod as well. I know it's yours, Vanch. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like I might even say that's the match of the decade. And I know, like, I could be victim to recency bias or whatever, and that is a thing. But when I just look back, like the
It's
quality
incredible.
of
I'm still not down from it.
With the
Yeah.
Rafa match, sorry, I'll come to you in a second, Vanch. With the Rafa match, though, I'm not just so the Aussie Open final. I'm not just talking about quality. If we were talking about quality,
okay,
I
you
think,
mean memorable, or do you mean
yeah,
like price quality?
memorable. And the problem I have with putting the Sinner Alcaraz match in the absolute upper echelons of matches of the century, let's say, or the century thus far, is the fact it was a quarterfinal. That's where it just loses a point or two, if you like, compared to, say, Rafa against Federer 2008, Rafa against Djokovic 2012. I think it might just end up just slipping a place or two as a result.
Yeah. To be fair, like I don't think it's. I wouldn't put it up. Like I'm just talking about the 2020s. Like since January 2020. I don't mean like overall.
My problem, though, in terms of, I was thinking about this for about 10 or 15 minutes earlier today, or it might have been yesterday, was actually thinking of memorable women's matches from this year. Because really, it's got to be a big final for me to be in that sort of category of memorable. As Alcaraz takes a 30-15 lead here, I will switch back to this match. Don't you worry if there should be a break point or a set point or anything crazy should occur. But my problem was I was thinking of the Aussie Open final, which was kind of got interesting in the second set between Ash Barty and Daniel Collins. I think she may have been a break or two up in that second set, but ended up not managing to take it to a third set. The French Open final was one-way traffic for Iga. The Iga, was it Zhang? Who was it she played who went 3 sets?
In the French Open, it was Zhang.
French Open, yeah. So, that was a good match. What are the
I have one
matches?
actually.
Go on, Jack.
And it is an Iga match. Iga's semi-final in Stuttgart v Samsonova was my match of the women's match of the year. It was great.
That was a good one.
It was so good. I was mad about that match. I loved it. I thought the quality was outstanding, and Swiatek probably one of our best matches of our streak. So good.
Okay, Nick.
So it's difficult for me because I kind of with you, like there hasn't really been an epic women's match in recent years. I think the closest I can think of is probably those US Open semi-finals in 2020.
Yeah.
But in 2022, I mean, look, the year's not over yet. We could have an epic in the WTA finals, which has been known to happen. So I don't want to kind of definitively sign off on the match of the year. There have been some really good ones and some ones I've been really entertained by, but in terms of like ones that have really stuck, it's difficult. But also I've missed a lot of matches that everyone's made a big fuss about. So if I think about what's caused a bit of a Twitter sort of furor, like Twitter sort of, oh, this match was amazing, then the matches that come to mind are all matches I've missed. So Kerber against Juvan in that final the week before the French Open.
I was thinking about
Kontaveit against Krejcikova.
Yes, that was
match.
Give that one a shout too. In Sydney,
the week before Australia, Sydney. Yeah, I still haven't seen that match. Everyone said that was amazing. I haven't seen Osaka against Anisimova in Australia.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Even the final was pretty good, Badosa and Krejcikova, but not as high quality as that Kontaveit one.
And then people talk about Osaka against Anisimova in the third round of the Australian. Again, I missed that, and that's mostly due to time zone.
That might be mine for the slams. If we're talking about just the majors.
Sorry, I'm not laughing. I'm laughing at the point.
No, that point. This point is insane.
That was just, they were both basically, they could almost touch each other. In fact, they almost ran into each other like I suggested they might do earlier. They were that close. But they were basically sort of, I mean, there was a net cord for Ruud there, and they're just sort of putting the ball back over the net to each other from about 3 or 4 meters away from each other. I don't know if that was necessarily the top quality point of the tournament, but certainly it was very interesting with how they were so close to each other, and Casper Ruud winning that to go 15 love up. But and he's got maybe that's his first ace as well, so he's got 30 love there. Listen, regarding women's matches this year, I just maybe those matches because they came in slightly smaller tournaments, they fell off my radar. The match from last year, which really stuck in my head, was Osaka against Muguruza at the Australian Open.
Yeah, that was good.
That was insane. I think Muguruza may have had a couple of match points in that match, and of course Osaka went on to win the tournament. I don't recall a match this year that had me on the edge of my seat on the women's side as much as that, because basically we've seen a year of dominance, whether it be Ash Barty winning the Australian Open without dropping a set, or whether we have that run from Iga, or obviously Iga here again in the US Open. And the Wimbledon tournament didn't quite hit the heights in terms of quality. I really loved the semi-final between Tanya Maria and Ons Jabeur. I thought it was a really nice, exciting match at various points that did ebb and flow. Maybe didn't quite have the quality level, though, of some of the matches I did highlight before. And then the final was also, probably the most competitive of the four major finals we've had this year. It was the only one that went to obviously 3 sets. But, it was a big serving player in Rybakina, and it still wasn't quite edge of the seat stuff. So I have found it difficult to think of a women's match that I'd like to do a repeat watch along for. But if any of you guys want to do a repeat watch along, if you want to join me in the land of tennis nerds, like Owen and I, when we're going to watch the Rafa Rafa quarterfinal with Djokovic, you're more than welcome to do that with me. Maybe for that Sinner Alcaraz match, and just talk us through the match. It would be maybe some fun if you've got 5 hours to spare.
Which is a very good point.
Which is, of course, the trickiest thing.
I'm glad they put up the extended highlights. So if you have
extended highlights is an option as well, because you can always do like a 45-minute option, and that may well be a good one for that Sinner match. But listen, I've gone off at a tangent. Let's get back to today's match. By the way, Isabel, I didn't really come to you much regarding the women's matches. Are there any women's matches in the last year, 18 months that stick out for you?
Yeah, I was trying to think of some while you were all talking.
Sorry.
Not in the last year. I can think of some women's matches in my lifetime that stick out for me, but in the last year, there weren't any like epic ones, and I think it's hard to think of women's matches that are epic anyway, just because they're so much shorter than men's matches usually. So you're not sitting there for 4 hours at a time. You don't remember them as much, but I can think of a few for me that I remember feeling in the moment.
Go on.
Really tense.
I'm going to come back to you in a second, Isabel, because I've got a question for you actually regarding that. Just to tell everyone that Alcaraz is 5-6, serving to stay in this third set. But yeah, Isabel, I heard the tennis podcast talking about it on their podcast regarding yesterday's final, and it is something that I feel fairly strongly about, and that's the notion of 5 sets in women's tennis. And I would love to see it trialed, if you like, to see if we could have women's finals at majors go to 5 sets. I would have liked to have seen more tennis yesterday. Well, how do you feel about that, Isabel?
I think I don't know that I want women's tennis to have 5 sets. I don't think I really want men's tennis to have 5 sets.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should both be best of 3, and that's the end of it. Because if we had women's matches also 5 sets going 4+ hours, it would never end. Like Grand Slams would be 3-4 weeks long.
I agree with that, and that's why I was thinking maybe just try it in a final. I hope that doesn't. I just think it could be interesting. I think yesterday could have become an interesting match as Ons Jabeur sort of found her feet, sort of a set and a half through it. And maybe as well, they mentioned on the tennis podcast, maybe she settles a bit earlier as well, because maybe it's the fact that you've not got time to recover that adds to the anxiety at the beginning of the match. And if you had, say, the final or maybe the semi-finals and final, you don't have to worry about a backlog with matches and finding time to finish these matches. As you said, if it was 5 sets from start to finish, you might have to extend the Grand Slam to 2.5 or even 3 weeks. But I don't know. I'd like to see it trialed to see how it goes for a year, to make all of the finals 5 setters. And if we found that it just didn't work and the matches were boring, and there is an argument. I think Djokovic is one of those players that does subscribe to this, that actually he thinks that men's matches should be 3 sets all the way through, which is kind of interesting given how successful he is over 5 sets. Anyway,
Can
we've
I-
got go on. What are you
I
going
was
to
going to
say?
say, actually, they have actually kind of done that. Not in majors, but the WTA finals, the final of that was best of 5 sets. I remember that ringing a bell, so I just looked it up. So from 1984 to 1998, the final of the WTA finals was best of 5.
Okay.
And they've had some 5 setters. Like there was a 5 setter in
Hmm.
'96 between Graf and Hingis.
I
Great.
heard the players didn't all like it.
I think, and I'm going to come to the match in a second because it's been a big moment, not super significant, but I'll come to it in a second. I think some of the women's players have also spoken out this year about that notion. I think some people have been asked, may have been Osaka, who said that she wouldn't like to play 5 sets. Listen, anyway, we'll come back to that tangent some other time because right now we've just seen an excellent forehand winner down the line from Casper Ruud, bringing set point for the Norwegian. Bearing in mind, it's 5-6, 30-40, Alcaraz on serve. This obviously could well be the most important point of the match so far. Let's see how this pans out. Alcaraz to serve, gets his first serve in to the forehand. Alcaraz attacks it, coming into the net again. Oh, what a volley from the Spaniard there, bringing up juice. Excellent touch there at the net. Go on, Van.
I was just laughing at Jack's face during that point.
Jack, are you on the? So I wasn't watching you. Jack, are you supporting Alcaraz today?
It was just clutch. I just
Just
paid for
clutch.
clutch. Paid
Yeah.
for clutch. That was great.
Coming into the net, coming into the net there, as we come up with the net points 26 out of 32 for Alcaraz. Very impressive stats from the Spaniard. Now we're at juice. Casper Ruud goes too long. So it's a 5-6 advantage Alcaraz, meaning game point as we get closer to a potential tiebreak.
The net approaches have become... Sorry, John, sorry.
Go on, Jack.
The net approaches have become really frequent, really, from Alcaraz, and I wonder how often he'll be doing it in the tiebreak. Probably, I would imagine he'll be looking to do it as much as he can.
Yeah. Okay, forehand exchange now, actually on the backhand, of Casper Ruud. Forehand now, they are doing a forehand exchange. Let's see how many shots this rally lasts. Oh, what a winner from Casper Ruud. Down the line. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Wow.
Oh, boy. That was wow, Nick.
Oh, love it. Love a running forehand. Love a running forehand from anyone.
Yeah.
Did that just he hit a really good one against Hachanov to get the break in the 4th set.
That's too much.
He may have just taken a whisk off the net. I don't know, but either way, it doesn't take anything away from the quality of the shot, as you say. Excellent running forehand. Juice now. So here we go again. Pressure a little bit back on the Spaniard here. Has to hold serve if he wants to force the tiebreak. 5-6 juice. Goes long with his first serve. Goes long with the first serve. Let's see how he does with the second serve. That first serve there was 110 miles an hour from the Spaniard. Here we go. Second serve. Forehand return. Good forehand return. He comes into the net and he wins the point again. The Spaniard at the net. Carlos Alcaraz advantage. Coming into the net. Didn't necessarily have to. Chose to. Was the right decision. Trusted himself. Backhand. Volley. Winner. Nice. Technique.
I honestly, it looked like he'd taken off before he knew Ruud was slicing. I don't know. He was sprinting as soon as he hit that ball. Like he knew that it was going to be a ball that he could put away. But I guess maybe he saw Ruud change the grip that us mortals don't see, I guess. But yeah, he was in a flash.
Yeah, he was. And he wins the point again. We were just praising him for his net points won, and it's, I think, 10 out of 13 for this set as well, pretty much echoing his form throughout this match, where he's been pretty dominant when he has approached the net. Okay, second serve here, Carlos Alcaraz. Game point. Backhand of Ruud. Forehand, Alcaraz goes wide. Having to dig deep here, Alcaraz. Nick, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm finding it odd that Alcaraz has had to play some really clutch tennis to keep himself in the set. There's been some weird errors at points in this game, but also some great tennis from Casper Ruud. Honestly, even if it goes to a tie break, I think Casper Ruud's winning the set. And I think if Casper Ruud wins the set, I think he's winning this match.
I heartily agree.
Wow.
Oh,
What a return, Nick.
yeah.
I don't
That-
think the
that
serve ball
was-
is going to work, right? I mean,
Djokovic-esque.
Ruud's
Does
been
that-
expecting it the whole time.
Yeah, and does that count as a net point lost? Maybe not, but Alcaraz was pretty much going to the net after that first serve there.
I
But
think they
ends up
have counted it on the stats.
Okay. Anyway, he lost the point. More importantly, it's set point for Casper Ruud. This time he's in the net again. Has he got the point this time, Alcaraz? Yes, he has. Yes, he
Ooh.
has.
Wow.
Didn't quite execute the volley perfectly, and Ruud managed to get his racket on that as he chased it down, but it wasn't good enough for the Norwegian because ended up being a sort of not a smash from Alcaraz. He just basically got the ball back in play, and it was enough to win the point. Deuce. If you're an Alcaraz fan, heart in the mouth time. As a Casper Ruud fan, Isabel, is it still heart in the mouth time?
I'm not too worried right now. I'm just enjoying it.
Cool. But you're pretty sure that if it does go to time, I think there's a couple of you suggested that Ruud would win the tiebreak, and of course that would follow form in this tournament, bearing in mind that Carlos Alcaraz has played 4 tiebreaks and lost all 4 of them. But of course, with a fairly small sample size, that's quite difficult to tell. Anyway, listen, it's advantage Alcaraz now. So again, he's got a chance to take this to a tiebreak. It'd be interesting to know. It's been 14 points in this game, so that probably means we've had about half a dozen juices, maybe. 8 minutes and 42 seconds currently as we enter sort of the 10th minute of this game. It has been a bit of an epic game, and you do think it could be quite important for this particular match. Jack, give me some thoughts.
Yep, tie break. I'm quite excited for it. I'd like it to go to a tie break because I'd be really intrigued to see how the pair sort of try and surprise each other, I guess. I don't even think Alcaraz is trying to surprise Ruud with a serving volley right now. He's just hoping that Ruud can't execute the pass. It'll just be interesting to see how they both use the net to finish off the point because we've not seen Ruud shy away from the net either. He's been up there quite a lot.
Deuce. So not a tie break yet. Vanch, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that why am I so far behind?
Okay, so we're at juice, but I don't know which. Maybe you're at juice 2, but maybe you're at juice number 4. I'm at juice number 5. As Ruud nets, and it's another game point. It feels like there's been a lot more game points for Alcaraz than there have set points for Ruud. I think Ruud has had 2 set points, one at 30-40 and one at advantage. It's now the 16th point of the game as we enter the 11th minute.
I think Ruud's only had the 1 break point actually. Yeah.
He's only
Just
had
the
1
one.
break. He's only had
Just the
1
one.
set point,
No,
is he? Oh, okay. I thought it's
2.
2.
He's had 2.
Pretty sure it's 2.
He's had 2.
30-40 and 1 at advantage. Pretty sure it's 2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've got that the wrong way around. Never mind.
He's had 2 so far.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
That's a good serve, though, there from Alcaraz. He goes for the drop shot. It's not enough to win the point outright, but he still might end up winning the point. Will he win the point? Who knows? Casper Ruud there goes for the tweener. This time it's a smash, though, from Alcaraz as he wins the point. It's another epic one, and I feel as though there's several more to come.
Wow.
Wow, Isabel. We are going into the tie break that Nick has been predicting throughout, but I don't even know why we're going to bother to watch this tie break. We could just all switch off our TVs because Isabel has said that Casper Ruud is going to win the tie break hands down, right?
I can only hope.
Nick, what are your thoughts at this point?
Yeah, I mean, fair play for Casper for trying a tweener, but Alcaraz too good. I actually think Ruud's winning this tiebreak, and I think the reason for that is he's been a little bit better behind his second serve, and I think in a tiebreak, second serves are more critical. You very rarely get your first serves in all through a tiebreak. So, unless Alcaraz has an incredible serving display, then that would then I think Ruud's probably got this.
Well, Casper Ruud has taken a 1-love lead with an ace. I believe it's his second of the match. Just looking at their tiebreak record at the US Open, it's 0-4 for Carlos Alcaraz, 4-3 for Casper Ruud. So obviously Ruud having the better record at this particular tournament for tiebreaks. But I actually thought before the tiebreak began, I thought maybe Alcaraz would prevail in the tiebreak. We'll see if I am right on that. He's actually love 1 down. Jack, do you think Alcaraz or Ruud are winning this tiebreak?
To be honest, I think Ruud's been looking the better player.
Fair enough. Guys in the live chat, by the way, those of you watching, let me know who you think is winning this tiebreak simply by putting the letter A. It's now 1-1, by the way, so I guess that makes it a bit more even. Let me know in the live chat. A for Alcaraz, R for Ruud. Hit A and return if you think Alcaraz is winning this tiebreak, and hit R and return if you think Casper Ruud is winning this tiebreak. So just simply make your predictions known to us, and I'll try and put them up on the screen. What are your thoughts, Vanch? Are you thinking Ruud or Alcaraz for the tiebreak? I think we've got 3 votes for Ruud thus far. Vanch?
Oh, Vance is gone.
Vanch is gone. Scott there saying Alcaraz, Ashley going for Ruud. I think that generally, though, most people are suggesting Ruud. I have gone for Alcaraz, so I'm with Scott there, but most others are going for Ruud, possibly because of the momentum of the match. I think it was the momentum for chaos. Okay. Jack, you've gone for Ruud because I guess you think that just the momentum is with him right now.
Yeah, I just think he's serving better. I think he's taking care of his own service points easier than Alcaraz. At the same time, I mean, we've seen Alcaraz's tiebreak record, actually. I mean, maybe this has got something to do with it. I don't know. He can't serve his way out of a tiebreak or something. But yeah, no, I think Ruud's probably going to get a few more easy points than Alcaraz. First point was an unreturnable serve, for example.
Yeah,
however, it is 3-1 Alcaraz now.
It is 3-1 because that was a shank there from Casper Ruud. I believe the first one of the match. 1-3 now. So Alcaraz has the mini break at this juncture. We are in a tiebreak, 1-1, 1-3. Casper Ruud 2 serve. I wonder if Vanch has decided to switch off and then switch back on so he can catch up, so to speak, in terms of where his stream is at. As Casper Ruud goes wide with a forehand, meaning Alcaraz leads 4-1. 2 unforced errors and 2 shots that were pretty wild from the Norwegian. One was a shank and one was just a badly timed or badly hit shot that went way out, meaning Alcaraz has a 4-1 lead. Nick, what are you thinking?
I'm surprised Casper Ruud's playing this tiebreak so poorly. He's made so many errors in this tiebreak. I didn't account for that in my prediction. That Casper Ruud would tie up like this. So advantage Alcaraz right now.
Yeah, definitely. 4-1 becomes 5-1 because he's just hit a forehand winner, and he's looking very, very good to take a 2-1 lead now with 2 mini breaks up. He's 5-1, meaning he's just 2 points away. Isabel, your expression doesn't look so assured regarding Casper Ruud's chances.
I'm worried that Nick and I jinxed it, and now it's over.
I don't usually jinx things, though. Like when I've been on streams, I've usually been right. So,
well, you have to start winning right now.
Yeah.
This is why John keeps inviting me back.
Listen, though, it's 1-5, or I should say 5-1. Alcaraz winning 8 of the last 10 points. If we go back to the last game of the third set, it's 6-all, of course. That's how tiebreaks work. 5-1, though, Alcaraz leading in the tiebreak as he's serving here, and he's now got a 6-1 lead as Ruud nets with a forehand return. Carlos looking very cool, and understandably so, because he's got 5 set points in the bag. I have a feeling that Ruud, given his advantage he has, he may well go big here on the return here, Alcaraz. Let's see how he does that. Anyway, it's Ruud to serve 1-6, 5 set points for the Spaniard. I think Vanch may have decided to watch separately so he can come back and give us some analysis rather than be a couple of points behind. Net cord there from Ruud. I think it's going to be a first serve, though, still for the Norwegian. 1-6. I'll talk us through this point and then I'll come to Jack. 1-6. Casper Ruud to serve. First serve still here. Here we go. Gets it down the tee. No, it goes long with that first serve. So it's a second serve for Alcaraz to look at with 5 set points in the bag. Must be feeling confident right now. Second serve, Carlos Alcaraz to face it. Forehand return from Alcaraz. Forehand from Casper Ruud is wild, is wide, indicative of his tiebreak. Isabel there didn't work out. I will come to Jack in a second, but let's go to Isabel first.
I don't know what the heck Casper was just playing at with this tiebreak. That was pathetic.
Yeah, I just didn't see that coming. Ashley there's got a comment for you, Nick, before we do finally come to Jack. I must admit, I thought the same, Ashley. I thought the same. I thought, whoa, that's, there's an expression we sometimes say, a bit antiquated, which is self-praise, no recommendation. But I think that'll go down in history, in talking tennis history. Nick there, maybe I need to get you a T-shirt, Nick. I'm usually right.
I'm only right 75% of the time.
Well. What do we think now?
Jack, what do you think right now?
You're on mute, Jack.
You're on mute.
There's no way that wasn't nerves. I mean, there was two shank shots from the back of the court, 2 missed returns as well. I mean, he's been making returns the whole time. Decided not to chip the return. I don't know if that was because Carlos was serving volleying so much in the last game, but anyway, missed 2 returns he shouldn't have missed. Just gave Alcaraz some easy, I think, an easy return winner or an easier winner off of Ruud's return, rather, I should say. So a short return, just easy stuff. I mean, that wasn't Ruud. I don't know what we just saw, but he went walkabouts.
Yeah, very nervy tie break. Alcaraz did a really good job of just playing steady in that moment when he had to. Did not overplay. Played the percentages, and he went really far deep on that shot that he played at 1-2. He literally hit an inside-out forehand from like the really, really corner of like where the spectators were. It was insane, that inside-out return that he hit.
Yeah, it was just I think they were all on the forehand as well, right? I mean, all those
and Ruud
wild
just
errors.
sort of froze. I was surprised. I didn't think he would go for a backhand there. He had enough time to go for an inside out or inside in, and he had a lot of court to work with as well. So kind of strange, but also not surprising because it's big.
Your expression, Isabel, does tell us 1,000 words. Compared to how confident you felt 5 minutes ago, how do you feel right now?
I'm nervous. If he continues to show nerves like that, then we're only going to see one more set, and
we do see momentum shifts often dictated by tie breaks, and then very soon after we see a break of serve, for example, against the person who just lost the tie break. For Ruud's sake, I really hope he doesn't go a breakdown early. Of course, Carlos Alcaraz will serve first in this 4th set. Jack, what are you thinking right now?
I imagine Alcaraz's game is probably going to revert back to the sort of median. He's not going to go serving volley and stuff, not take those risks that he took at 5-6 in that 3rd set. I imagine he'll probably try and beat Ruud from the baseline, which actually might not work in his favour. I don't know if he should. Maybe I think he should keep taking it to Ruud, to be honest. I don't think he should let Ruud settle back into the match, take advantage of a pretty damning 3rd set tiebreak, I guess, and just kind of stick it to him. I don't know. I'd maybe take a few more risks at the start of this 4th set because it's quite important. He builds on the momentum he's just created.
Yeah, listen, and I don't know if this makes matters worse, but Ruud has just played the first point of the 4th set in the exact same manner with the exact same level of confidence and conviction that he should have played during the tiebreak, and even arguably during the last game of when it was 5-6, and he's just hit an excellent backhand return. It might not be enough to win the point yet. Let's see. Yes, it is. It's love 30. So Ruud, for the first 2 points of this set, he's just won the first 2. He's just played absolutely freely and absolutely normally, including an excellent backhand down the line that helped him win the first point. But he just didn't have that same level of freedom during the tiebreak. I mean, just so many wild forehands letting him down. And don't forget, he did have 2 set points, albeit on the Alcaraz serve. Can't really remember exactly how those 2 set points played out. But I do wonder if there may be some regret from the Norwegian as Alcaraz does a nice little 1-2 to bring it up to 15-30. Nick, what are you thinking right now?
I'm thinking that Alcaraz needs to Alcaraz needs to build on this momentum. It's 15-30, and if he goes down an early break, he could be in trouble straight away. I think these opening few games in the 4th are going to be critical to define how this match is going to turn out. There was another point, but it's past midnight over here, and I'm struggling to remember what it was. given you've got tired Nick commentating right now. Yeah, I think Ruud. That was it. Ruud is going to rue that lost third set because he probably should have won it, to be honest, because he had those set points, and yet Alcaraz saved them with some clutch play. But that tie break was a massive missed opportunity, and I think if he does lose this match, that's going to be the reason why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that spell of about 10 minutes, that big game that had so many juices in it, that Alcaraz finally held 5-6, and then obviously the tiebreak, as you highlighted, will be the sort of 10 minutes really that dictate the match, if Alcaraz goes on to win the match, that is. But there's obviously a bit of tennis to go yet, and Alcaraz here now leads 40-30. He was 15-30 down, so he's just won 2 points back to back with the longest rally of the match, ending with a Carlos Ruud. Casper Ruud. Casper. I haven't got the excuse of it being that late at night where I am. It's about, I don't know, what time is it here? It's 7:05. 21 shots rally there, longest one of the match so far, ending with a Casper Ruud unforced error going long. So it's 40-30 Alcaraz. Vanch, are you still with us, by the way?
If he is, he's muted. I suppose maybe he doesn't know that.
Maybe he doesn't know he's muted, yeah. Feel free to interrupt anyway, Vanch, if you are still there. I think you may be dipping in and out to try and catch up with us on the stream. Jack, what are you thinking right now? If you're thinking about Casper Ruud's chances of winning this match, I guess they're somewhat diminished in the last 15 minutes or so.
Do you know, that last rally was kind of important. Again, Alcaraz kind of let Ruud build up on some confidence, I guess. Ruud wasn't able to finish the rally, but actually I've just seen the next point, and that was much more played with a lot more conviction. Massive forehand cross court from Alcaraz, which is what he was doing in the first set. I just feel like he needs to keep doing that. That was so important for him, and it kind of went away for like a whole set, probably because of Ruud, to be fair. A lot of depth in the ball stopping him from teeing off and on the forehand in the same way that he was in the first set. But yeah, he needs to, if he can do that, the more points the merrier for him.
I do see this ending in 4 sets, if I'm honest, the way things are right now. I've been wrong a million times about tennis, and I'll be wrong a million times again in the future. But I don't know. I just don't see a way that Casper Ruud is winning this match right now. I hate to say it for him and his fans, and in particular for Isabel, who's looking rather glum.
If I lose the bracket, then gosh, I don't know what I'll do. I only knew I was winning it about 2 hours ago.
Oh, hold on. Who's the bracket contested between again?
Isabel and Claire.
Oh, it's not me. I thought it was me.
You are tied. You are technically tied with Isabel on points, but because the way the TNS app works, like the tiebreaker is most amount of correctly predicted matches,
Right.
and Isabel's correctly predicted 5 more matches than you.
Right. Okay.
5 more. Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I should take over on the line.
The big prediction was all about, Tiafoe. The fact that I said Tiafoe was getting to the semis, that's that speaks volumes.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's what I would have used as a tiebreaker had I not actually read the rules.
No, that's a good call. I on the men's side did dreadfully. I think I had Tsitsipas beating Nadal in the final. I don't remember. Did Tsitsipas even play in this tournament? He'd barely landed in New York before he was on the plane back out again. I hope he had a ticket that he could change. I hope he didn't book a return ticket for tomorrow morning. Anyway, I guess tennis players don't quite have that same conundrum that us mere mortals do have regarding plane tickets. But listen, on the women's side, I had Iga beating Coco in the final, so I was somewhat closer with that prediction.
Yeah,
Iga beating who? Sorry,
Coco Gauff.
Yeah. I actually think I said Halep, and obviously that. Oof.
Yeah, I said Halep too.
Yeah.
I think I had a Coco Halep semi.
Quarter even. Yeah. But,
maybe. Yeah.
Or fourth. In fact, it might have been even earlier than that.
Hey, look, I've had a Halep Bencic final. Look how that works out.
Bencic.
Yeah,
but I got the Bencic. I was a bit on the Bencic bandwagon. I think I had her in the semis. Owen there, by the way, he's obviously not heard my critical comments regarding him because he's just said how wonderful we all are. Owen, you'll have to watch this entire stream again to hear just so I to hear some of the comments I made about your prediction and this match earlier. Owen there with another thing there, amazing end to the third set. Absolutely, it was a surprising end, I would probably say, and it really could well be pivotal regarding to this match. Him saying redacted there, I think it's because he's obviously responding to the fact that he's heard that maybe I made a cheeky comment in his direction. Owen, I won't make you watch it again. I'll expand on that next time we have a chat, and I'm looking forward to speaking to you a bit more in the future. Yeah. So anyway, listen, one game all now. Casper Ruud, Alcaraz. Ruud there comfortably holding as he largely did throughout the third set. Unfortunately, he just went AWOL in the tiebreak. Listen, Jack, I'm going to go off at a slight tangent. What were your thoughts on the eager changing racket on championship point yesterday? I thought that was a bit.
No.
Go on.
It was fine. She was so quick, and there was no secret this fortnight that she'd been changing rackets a lot to try and give herself a little bit more control on the ball. And post match as well, Jabeur said she didn't even notice that she changed rackets.
She did.
She said she did. Sorry.
No, she said you're right. I agree. She said she didn't.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's fine. And everybody knows Fontek. She seems to be a pretty readable character, right? She's so likable, very, very quiet, very, wouldn't hurt anybody on purpose. I imagine that. Yeah, it doesn't seem very gamesmanshipy to me. I'm not. Yeah, no drama.
Okay, maybe I'm being a bit harsh. I don't know. I just thought, I'm not saying it was gamesmanship, but yeah. I mean, Ons, as you said, was very magnanimous about the whole thing. She said didn't even notice, which is fair enough. What I am noticing though is Alcaraz has taken a 30-love lead here against Casper Ruud in this third game. It's on serve, but obviously with Spaniard serving first, he would become, of course, the first teenager to reach the world number one, and obviously the youngest person ever to do so. And it's looking more and more likely, right, Nick?
Yeah, I'd say so. Momentum's very much with Alcaraz right now. He's played a good couple of games. Sadly, I've lost the stats. The US Open stats no longer seem to be working, so I'll just give up on that one. But yeah, it's been a good, although not great. That was not a good forehand miss there. But yeah, I think Alcaraz is very close to that first major title.
Yeah, it's probably a perfect time for me to say the typical commentator's response, which is the only stat that matters right now is it's 2-1 to Carlos Alcaraz. Jack, what can Casper Ruud do to get back into this match?
If he can start finding the depth again on his shots, then definitely he's got a chance if he can push Alcaraz back, but I don't really know how that happens again when Alcaraz is feeling this hot. To be honest, it's you just seen it in that last point, killing forehands again, flattening them out from short in the court. Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of down to Ruud, definitely. It's all about his forehand, isn't it? Like, it's no secret that's his best shot. The more he can get that into play, the more he tends to trouble opponents because it's abnormally heavy, very, very difficult to do anything with. So.
Vanch, I can see you on mute, so I don't know if that means you are still there. Feel free to just unmute yourself and chip in as and when you feel like doing so. Nick, it's going to be 4 sets, right?
So it's looking right now. Well, having said that, I think that was a good start. As a good start from Ruud on his serve. Like, he actually served pretty well in his opener, so I'm keen to see how he does in his second service game. I think it's probably going 4, but I also think that I think Alcaraz might break quite late in the set if he breaks at all.
The thing is, I even think that even if it goes 5, I still would back Alcaraz. That's my take on it.
4 consecutive 5-setters? Really?
I know it would be insane, but listen, the guy is insane. There's just nothing normal about Alcaraz, and I mean that in the absolute best possible terms. You would then think favor Ruud if it was to go to 5.
Yes, I would.
Jack?
No, I'm still going for Alcaraz.
Yeah, listen, I had Alcaraz in for at the beginning of the match.
Freak of nature.
Yeah, and also if it was to go 5, I'll still back Alcaraz should that pan out that way. What time is it in the UK, Isabel?
12-13.
Okay, so it's not too bad. Of course, it could get a lot worse if it was to go to 5 sets. Any hope now for Casper Ruud? Maybe I'm being too pessimistic. I mean, it's on serve here, and if he was to get a break of serve sometime soon, Isabel, maybe there can be some shoots for optimism.
I think so, and I think he can. I think he can do it. I'm not gonna lose faith. I think he's got really good mental game, and I think he knows kind of what he has to do. That was a really nice play from him there.
Yeah, really good.
I think he can find a way out of this. I don't think it'll be easy, but I have faith. I think he's really smart about it. You know.
Go on, Jack.
He's not playing that badly. He had a nervy tie break. He's been broken twice in the match. He's holding the serve well. He's still serving really well. He's setting himself up for shots like after every serve I've seen from him in this set. I don't know. He's got a chance. He definitely has a chance. But he can't. Carlos is turning into a really weird player. It just seems like you can't not pick him, right? It's been so long since we had a new player like that. That's just kind of how I feel about him. So great.
Yeah. Although he has got 30-15 here on his serve. I don't know. I just feel as though Casper's going to have to make a bit more of an impression on the Alcaraz serve in this set. He obviously got 2 breaks of serve in the second set. Did they exchange breaks in the third? I'm not sure. I can't remember now.
They did, yeah. Alcaraz actually had a double break point, right at the start at 2-love.
He did. Yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten that. That's a good first serve there from Casper Ruud to go 40-15. Yeah, but since then, really, the next sort of few games, and then also, of course, the tiebreaker, didn't win a single point on the Alcaraz serve in the tiebreaker. I think did Casper Ruud win the first point and then go on to lose the next 7? Is that how the tiebreak panned out? I think it may well have done.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was just a tiebreak to forget, unfortunately, for the Norwegian, and it just seemed like an imposter had taken over his body, Jack.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. Nice stat for you here, by the way, John. 111 points, 1 each.
Okay, that you're taking the stats away from Nick. Nick basically said his stat machine was down, and I don't know if you've stolen it from Nick because that's a good one. But ultimately, yeah, you have ransacked it. Great, and I love the English word there, ransacked. That's a great word. I haven't had that one for a while. Maybe I might even just start using that again on the streets of New York tomorrow, just to impress the locals here. Nick, it's 2-all. Alcaraz is serving 15-love. It's now 8-4 in the ace count. I think Alcaraz has just got an ace there to break it 15-love. It was 6-love. It was 6-0 at one point for Alcaraz. Nick, I'm feeling a bit down for Ruud right now, mainly because of how that tiebreak turned out. Can you give me some reasons for optimism for Casper?
He's holding serve pretty well.
Okay.
And that's the main thing. He's not dropped a break. He's had 2 good service holds. I think it's clear that he's mentally reset and he still thinks he's in this. So, yeah, I am. I think that, it's going to be. Yeah, I think he's still in this match, very much so. I think the momentum is very much with Alcaraz, but it's not a done deal.
Yeah, and as Jamie here points out, Alcaraz has been insane at the net, and maybe that bodes well for a future doing well on grass. I think the thing with Alcaraz and grass, and I think it's the same for Iga, is they're both very, very young, very, very good, and just too good and too smart and too talented not to get good on grass. It took Rafa a couple of years to get things going, if you like. Some people aren't just born for the grass in the way that maybe a Sampras or Federer, even Djokovic, I think maybe wasn't immediately amazing on grass, but these unbelievably good players end up figuring it out sooner rather than later, and I think that'll be the same for Carlos. Do you have the same confidence, Jack, regarding Carlos on grass eventually?
The one thing I would say certainly about Nadal's game is that his game is so confounding, I guess, for the best grass player of the last 20 years that it made sense for him to sort of break through at Wimbledon from kind of 2005 to 2010. Obviously, he's still great there. But yeah, it made sense for that to be a place that he, could have a sort of happy hunting ground. For somebody like Alcaraz, his serve really isn't good enough yet. I'm sure serve will get better. And if that does happen, then yeah, I believe he can get better. But at the moment, I've not seen anything that makes me think it's a certainty, I guess, that he's going to be good in the grass. Okay. Like he's great at the net, I agree. But if he can't serve well, if you can't serve well enough, you won't win 7 matches in a row.
By better, do you mean bigger or do you mean just better spot serving?
Better spot serving.
Could be either. Spot serving.
Definitely, just spot serving. He can hit it as hard as he likes, but the accuracy goes down the harder he hits it, and it tends to be 130 near the body, nowhere near the spots that he wants to hit. A lot of the time, yeah, it's just a big body serve, basically. We saw that in the center match, actually, loads of body serves, over 120 a lot of the time, but no accuracy on them. And if that continues, then he's not going to... Yeah, there's no way he breaks through at Wimbledon in the form he is in at the moment, is all I'm saying, or the version of him that he's in at the moment.
Just a quick point there. Rafa's serve obviously not being amazing, but maybe you're suggesting that Rafa always hits his spots, even if he doesn't. The thing with Rafa as well is I think his slice is one of the best in the game, and still is today, which obviously is quite useful on the grass. The return of serve, I guess you might say, is slight advantage for Alcaraz compared to Rafa, but Rafa's return is very, very, very decent, which is one of the other reasons why I think he's done so well there. By the way, there's a comment here for you, Nick. I'm going to put up on the screen now.
Oh my word! Oh my word! Jethro, you. Yeah, there's some stuff this guy's. He wants to see it. So basically, Jethro, are you asking me to take my shirt off?
Jethro, you got to come back on that one. Let's see if you can return that as well as Carlos Alcaraz can return. By the way, there's another comment here regarding the serving. Andy won Wimbledon twice with no second serve. Jack, you got to come back for that?
I don't want to pull that comment apart, Scott. I'm just going to leave it alone.
Okay, right.
Less said the better.
Listen, it's 3-2 on serve, 3-2 to Alcaraz, obviously by virtue of the fact he served first in this set. It's love all, although we're into an epic rally here, which is one with a Alcaraz winner down the line. Is that what you were reacting to, Isabel?
Yeah.
I think Isabel and I are pretty much dead on pace here. Are you? I'm going to talk us through the next point, Jack, but I think you...
Yeah,
I think all three of us are pretty much at the same juncture. And yet I think Nick is maybe a few seconds behind. And yet you three are watching effectively the same stream, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's because I'm streaming from my tablet onto the TV. I think if I was watching on my tablet, I might be on speed with you, but I'm talking to you, but I'm using my tablet to run the stream.
Cool. Vanch, by the way, if you are still on the tennis pod planet or whatever the expression needs to be, if you are still here, feel free to just jump back in. I'll have you back on board immediately as soon as you wish, or we can just come to you at the end of this set for your thoughts. But anyway, I'm going to talk us through this point. It's 15-all right now, and Casper Ruud, I think, is about to get ready for a first serve. Doesn't get it in, goes into the net. So he's got a second serve here, Carlos, to look at. Here we go. Second serve for Casper Ruud. Don't remember many double faults in this match, by the way. Good return of serve there from Carlos, putting himself in a pretty good position on this point. Excellent cross-court flat winner there. Cross-court winner, 15-30 Alcaraz. Are you pretty much at the same point as I am, Jack?
Yeah, I actually just rewound a little bit, though, just to see how the 15 love point went. I didn't realise Ruud had an unreturned there. Yeah, just looking at that cross-court backhand from Alcaraz now, but I will be able to catch up in a second. Great shot there.
Was
stepping on it.
I think I've caught up with you, John, because you were describing it as it happened.
Great. I think pretty much then all four of us are very similar. Don't even need to say that more than once, but don't know why I did. Juncture. Okay, so we got a backhand shot there from Alcaraz. Forehand, though, goes wild, meaning 30 all. And we have a Sinner-esque celebration from Casper Ruud. Maybe he's hoping to force a fifth set like the Italian did, albeit he'd obviously want a different eventuality. So 30 all, still nervy times for the Norwegian. 2-3 he is in this fourth set. Obviously 2-1 down. Here we are, Casper Ruud. First serve here at 30 all. Let's see if he gets the first serve in. He does so for the forehand. Forehand again of Casper. Backhand slice on the defensive there. Forehand smash goes wide.
Oh, he deserved that point there. He played really well.
He did, but did he not deserve to lose it by not? I mean, it wasn't
Well,
an
yeah,
easy put
that's
away.
fair.
It wasn't an easy put away. It was a tricky overhead for Casper Ruud, but he will be disappointed that he put it wide into the tram. I'm just going to watch this again. He was on the stretch. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. It wasn't easy. Of course, he could have just got the racket on it and just put it back in play, but then I think Alcaraz would have easily run that down. So he decided to put a bit of purchase on it, and therefore it went wide. Okay, 30-40, big point this. Forehand Alcaraz, forehand Casper Ruud, forehand Alcaraz, forehand goes, changing it up there. Backhand of Alcaraz, backhand of Casper Ruud, goes long. It's the break of serve. He's a break up in this very important fourth set. 4-2 Carlos Alcaraz as he hones in on this US Open title.
Oh dear.
Isabel, oh dear indeed. It's all about the tiebreak. It's all about the tiebreak. We're just seeing an overspill from the tiebreak.
Yeah.
Jack?
Yeah, just a small dip there. You're right. I mean, the miss smash, he did everything else right, to be fair. And then, yeah, I suppose that last point, a backhand on first error, that was kind of cheap, but I mean, there was a crazy shot from Alcaraz earlier on, so not much to be done there, I guess.
Hey guys, I had to leave for a bit. My laptop just running low on battery, so I had to charge it. And
Don't worry. So Vance, listen, I mean, that I can't remember if you were here for the tiebreak, but I just feel as though that tiebreak has set the tone really for the rest of the match, and that Casper Ruud hasn't really recovered since. And of course, now Alcaraz 2 games away from winning the match.
Yep. And obviously, he hit that really nice lob at 30 all. His speed was causing another error yet again, like we've seen so many times in his young career. And now let's see if he can handle the nerves and hold 2 more times.
Yeah, of course, that is what it's all about. Of course, it is love 15 here, so Casper Ruud, some shoots of optimism in this game at least. But 5-2 would be pretty ominous, so Casper will be desperate to get back on serve here as soon as possible. It's love 15, second serve here for Ruud to look at for Casper against the Alcaraz serve. Comes into the net, doesn't net the volley. Love 30.
He got away with that.
Interesting. He did get away with that because really Alcaraz should have won that point, Jack.
Yeah, I haven't really seen, like, Carlos has been coming in off of sort of flat wide serves, but he hasn't been coming in off of the kicker, which is the one he uses a lot on clay, and generally quite good against Ruud's deep return position. And I honestly thought it caught him out there. I just a bit of execution feeling at the end, so it was a good play. So tough point to stomach.
Yeah, love 30. Okay, I'll talk us through this very important point. Blocked return there from Casper Ruud. Now they're on the forehands. Alcaraz changing it up. Winner down the line. 15-30. No sign of tension from the Spaniard. Not yet anyway. Not showing it to me. 15-30. That was an excellent forehand down the line there from them, from the Spaniard, Nick.
Yeah, very good. Very good forehand down the line. This is the kind of thing you expect from Alcaraz. He just keeps going for it, no matter what the score, but especially when he's down. Interestingly, I've got the stats back, but not set by set breakdown. The total points won is still super tight. There's only 5 points between them right now for the whole match.
Yeah, obviously getting 2 breaks.
It's just those
for Casper in that second.
Yeah, it's just those. Yeah, it would be that and that plus the tie break. The poor tie break would sort of even it out. But yeah, right now it's been about the fact that for the most part, Alcaraz has played the big points far better.
Yeah. Talking of which, he was love 30 down in this particular game, and he's now 40-30.
Two aces back to back.
Thanks to two aces and a forehand winner, exactly. And I think he's really upped it in terms of his serving, not necessarily the speed, but in terms of the accuracy, because I think he's way ahead again on the serve, on the ace count. I think
that's
he
now
took
5 aces in the last 2 service games.
Yeah, right.
He's
And I think he's
hit 3 and almost go for the 4 in a row.
I think he's got 6.
Ended up double faulting.
Yeah, and he's got 6 in this set, so he's really Matthew Perry there again. Obviously getting a bit lucky with his ticket allocation at this year's tournament, given that he's obviously got 2 finals.
Matthew Perry, by the way, is a great tennis player.
Okay.
Former, aspiring pro.
That's true.
Okay.
He played in Ottawa.
Did he?
That right?
Yeah.
Maybe we need to get Vance and Matthew Perry on the court to do a talking tennis match between those two. That'll get the viewers on board, I'm sure. Talking of which, though, Alcaraz has now taken a 5-2 lead. Really, it's getting lastminute.com areas now for Casper Ruud. Nick, tell me what you're thinking.
I would not be surprised if Alcaraz breaks to win this next game. It has that feel about it, but that's kind of this. It's intuition giving me that based on seeing the pattern of the match and sort of the momentum shifts. But right now, I think let's see how it goes. But I would not be surprised to see Alcaraz break this game and take his first US Open title. I certainly think that's the most likely outcome from this set is that Alcaraz is going to win the set and the match.
Yeah.
He's just playing too well right now.
Jack, what are you thinking?
I think one more twist and turn maybe to Carlos's US Open title. I think he'll win eventually, but one more break back.
Just one thing there, I see Vance is just pointing at his PA to get Matthew Perry on the phone to arrange that match. He's just. I saw him jabbing the finger there. Oi, get Matthew Perry. I need him. Get a court booked ASAP. Listen, anyway, but being serious, Vance. Any way back for Ruud? Not really, is there?
Muted Vance.
It's tough to see Ruud coming back now, honestly.
Yeah.
From 2-5 down. He just has to hold here. This is a must hold.
Yeah, sorry, Isabel. It's not looking good for your man.
I'll learn to live with it,
Yeah. Okay, I'll talk us through this game. It's 2-5. Casper Ruud to serve. Goes long with the first serve here. Patrick McEnroe there saying, yes, obviously a must hold to try and keep things alive here. Second serve anyway. Alcaraz runs around it, so he's on the forehand. He's on the forehand again as Casper Ruud chops it up a bit there, actually. Goes a bit different. Backhand now into the net from Alcaraz. 15 love, Casper Ruud. Yeah.
It's a good point. Oh yeah, I like the forehand down the line to change up, as you were saying there, sort of a hooked on down the line, just to keep it a little bit higher to Alcaraz's backhand, but also keep it deep. Yeah,
no, I like that change up, albeit that Alcaraz's net, when he did actually end up netting, was just clipped the tape and almost thought about going over. That's a good swing volley there, and a real pressure. I always think that's one of the most nervy shots you can play in tennis that really will expose how you are feeling. And that was a really good swing volley there from Casper Ruud to bring up 30 love. Swing volley or drive volley, or is it basically the same thing, right?
The thing is potato. I'd say drive volley, but yeah, I think it's either or.
Yeah, cool. 30 love. Casper Ruud leading here, although 2-5 down in this set. Gets his first serve in, and it's 40 love. Very important points here. Obviously, for Casper Ruud, should he lose this game, he would go on to lose the match. Listen, it's not been the French Open final in terms of Casper Ruud just not showing up at all. But it now is 2 majors and maybe 2 defeats. Let's see how this point turns out anyway. 40 love, Casper Ruud leading here. First serve is in. It's a slice shot there, and it's good enough to win the point and therefore the game. Carlos Alcaraz will serve for his first ever major title. Go on, Jack.
Nothing. Just exciting. I'm really excited. Like so many before him, Casper Ruud has just come up against a goat of the game, right?
Yeah. Scott there is keeping the faith. Nick, was that you exclaiming then? You were like, ooh, was it because of that excellent slice from Casper?
Yeah, it's the big moment. Like we could be watching history. Like, are we going to say this is where we see the first of Carlos Alcaraz's 15 Grand Slam titles? I'm just plucking a number out there.
Opens with an ace down the tee, passes serve of the match.
Leave the stream for about a game, just because I am 1 or 2 points behind you guys.
Go away. We'll come back to it at the end of this game.
I'll come back
how
for
it
the
pans
debrief.
out.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to ruin it for you, Vanch.
Go. See you soon, Vanch. Okay, as you said, Jack, another ace. It's about the 73rd ace from Alcaraz in the last 2 service games. 15 love, he leads. And of course, mathematicians out there are trying to work out how he's got 73 aces in 2 service games, but I'll come to that later. Forehand, is that a winner? Not quite, but it is now because he approaches the net. 30 love, Carlos Alcaraz, 2 points away now from the title. I mean, if there were shoots of negativity, basically the coffin has now been, the nails are in, and it's now being lowered into the grave. I would suggest, I hope I'm not putting too damp a point on it. 30 love, Carlos Alcaraz here.
It's just so dark, John.
Sorry, yeah, it is dark, yes, in every way, sense and form. It's the first serve there from Alcaraz. He comes into the net. Ruud dips it up. Oh, and Alcaraz nets the smash. Alcaraz nets the smash.
His turn to net a smash.
If it's by the way, 4-3 and 40 love at the beginning of the match, Carlos Alcaraz does not net that smash. I'm not saying that he's super nervous, but yeah, he doesn't net that. He doesn't net that smash if it's the clay courts of Murcia where he grew up. Although actually I saw he actually was born somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure he counts Murcia as his hometown. Anyway, listen, 30-15 now I've netted that smash. Oh, and look at that. He aces again.
Oh my God.
40-15. I told you I don't want him to have a good serve because things could get very boring in the tennis world if he does. And he served really well today. Even his team were gobsmacked by that. 40-15. 2 championship points. I'm going to talk us through the first of them. Maybe he'll need a second. Maybe he won't. His coach just takes a deep breath. Carlos Alcaraz on the precipice of history here. First serve is in. Forehand. Alcaraz goes long. 40-15. 40-15. 2 errors there from Alcaraz, which I know he would never normally make. Even Carlitos is feeling it a little bit, but he's got a second championship point to deal with it. And by the way, bearing in mind how this match and even this set in particular has gone, it wouldn't surprise me if he aced it here. Let's see if he gets the first serve in. Carlos Casper coming in a bit closer to the... Oh, he's got it. He's got it. He's got it. He's on the floor. Can't believe it. It was an unreturnable. I just noticed that Casper Ruud did just come in a bit closer than normal for that return. Don't know if that affected things. Either way, Alcaraz has won 3-1 for his first major, first teenager to ever become world number 1. And Nick.
I heard Nick and then nothing else. I heard Nick and then nothing else.
That's all I said.
Time to take your shirt off, Nick. I mean, that's it.
Well, if you're asking, then
footballers do it.
I wasn't really supporting Alcaraz, to be honest. I was applauding because we're seeing that was a great performance in the final. 19 years old, first Grand Slam final. Many others would have wilted. This guy is the star of the future, and yeah, that was efficient closing of that game. Well done, Carlos Alcaraz. Disappointing for Casper Ruud, but there were promising signs in that match, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him back. But yeah, now is the moment for Carlos Alcaraz as he celebrates with his team, and yeah, what a great result for him.
Jack, go on.
That's great. I love it. I think just sort of watching him win that match there, He's such a likable guy. Brilliant for the sport. I know people keep saying it, but I really feel it. It was a great tournament. It was just amazing to see him to win his first title. It was great. Loved it.
And we have a new world number one. Carlos Alcaraz is that man. As
I
he
forgot
hugs,
that as well. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
As he hugs
Carlos
every member of
Alcaraz.
his team. Go on, Nick.
I did not think he'd be already world number one by this point in his career. Did not think this was going to happen. I thought he'd be good. I didn't think he'd achieve that this quickly.
I thought he would.
Amazing.
I thought he would be a bigger threat at the French. Not necessarily throughout his career. We obviously saw the U.S. Open how well he can play on the hard courts in New York last year. So I'm not going down the clay court narrative as such. I just thought that he would have a better run at it in France. I thought he might end up getting to the semis or the final, or even going further. That defeat to Zverev did surprise me. And probably in equal measure, this title has surprised me a little bit too. I just took too much stock from his recent performances in the last, 3 months, like I say, more or less like from the French Open onwards, that I just didn't see him winning this title yet, in a way. But obviously I underestimated him. Jack, you're going to shoot me down with some of your thoughts on my underestimation of Carlos Alcaraz, no doubt. Go on.
No, I'm not. I mean, there are still sort of not holes in his game, but parts of his game that are less strong than others, I guess. So there's parts of, you could exploit parts of his game for sure, but I just think the stuff that does work is unignorable. I guess it's insane. I'm still blown away by it, and honestly, the high of that Sinner Alcaraz match is I'm still not over it. It's mental.
Rafael Nadal must have had his finger on the button, waiting to send out the congratulatory tweet to Carlos Alcaraz because it's like a full-on tweet, like using all the characters available. So he must have been there ready to just get that out there ASAP because he's already tweeted his congratulations to his compatriot. Isabel, best man won on the day, right?
I'm not disappointed really. It was a good match. It's well deserved. From Carlos. I sort of was feeling similarly. I didn't think that he would get this far in his career this quickly. But it's cool. It's nice to see kind of a new era. And it's nice. I was thinking about this earlier. Like he's so young. He's like some of the youngest, one of the youngest on the tour, I think. And, we've been saying for the last like 5 to 7 years, like, oh, we're looking at all these next gen players and which one of them is going to like win slams and be the next greatest, and none of them have been able to do it. But then this fucking teenager walks in and blows them all away. Like it's really cool to see. So I'm happy for him.
Listen, Nick, I hear you regarding Casper Ruud will be back. He'll be at other major finals. The only thing is you don't want a pattern to emerge regarding, and I know it's only 2 at the moment, but I have some similar thoughts with Ons Jabeur. You don't want 2 finals to become 3 and 3 to become 4, if you like. And that's one of the great things for Carlos. He's now been in 1 major final. He's won it, So that means the next time he's in the major final, he won't have any kind of, even at 20 or 21, if you're getting to 2 or 3 major finals and you keep losing, we can see patterns emerge. We see it with so many times with players like Sabalenka and Sakkari getting to semi-finals. Sakkari and Sabalenka always, when it's tight matches, 3rd set tiebreakers or 3rd sets, business ends, you just fear for them because there's been some scar tissue built with those players. And Casper Ruud now has played in 2 major finals. He's come up against 2 unbelievable players, and they don't come much more unbelievable than Rafael Nadal and Philippe Chatrier. However, Casper Ruud's not going to make a Wimbledon final. He's had an amazing year. Maybe this was the year for him to take advantage of a slightly kind of draw at the French Open. Slightly, maybe a bit of fortune in terms of New York, obviously with Nadal going out early and no Djokovic there at all. Djokovic will almost certainly be back in Australia, and we'll go into that Australian Open tournament, and Casper Ruud will be back down the pecking order in terms of our favourites, I would have thought. Nick, tell me where I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. I definitely think that he will be sort of lower down. The thing is, Ruud does have a problem when he runs into bigger name players. We've seen it with Nadal. We've seen it with Djokovic. We've now seen it with Alcaraz, who has now added. Who is now legitimately a big name. I mean, I've got some thoughts about Alcaraz. I mean, like, he's just won his first major final pretty young in his career, and that's people like the greats like Borg and Sampras and McEnroe and Federer and Nadal all did that. That's a positive sign. So I would be tempted to put Alcaraz almost in that category. So for Ruud does have this problem where he runs into a much better player on the day, but we've seen from him today the level of tennis he can bring. He did push Alcaraz. He was in this match. It was just some lapses that cost him in the end. I would not be surprised if next time round he's in the mix. It really depends on who he's playing. It really depends on the matchup and how they're doing that day. But I won't count Casper Ruud out just yet. I see what you're saying, and I don't disagree, because I do think that he has some weaknesses there in comparison to a lot of other top players. But I won't be kind of dismissing Ruud as kind of out of it. And he's the world number 2 now. You don't do that without being pretty darn good.
Regarding Alcaraz as well, that's 5 titles for him this year and 51 wins in total. He is a guy as well, don't forget, who skipped Rome, and he has been sort of, particularly around that sort of congested period of the year, did sort of pick and choose the tournaments that he would play in. We see it with players like Andrei Rublev, that basically you see them go out of one tournament and they're seeking the next 250 that they can participate in. But Carlos Alcaraz has been a bit more measured with the tournaments he's played, and yet he's still racked up 51 wins this year, which is almost certainly the most on tour, because Rafa's just not played that often, and Djokovic, of course, is the same. So I'm pretty sure that he's won more matches than anyone else this year. And of course, we also highlight that he's only lost matches that have been tight as well. He's never been thrashed in any match. He's never lost a straight sets match all year. And that's hats off to him as well. And he's a worthy world number 1, become the youngest ever world number 1 and the youngest major winner since Rafael Nadal 2005 Roland Garros. And I think that's a good point you make, Nick, as well, is that, you know, he's done it at the first attempt, like Nadal and like Djokovic and so many others. Sorry, not Djokovic, Federer. Djokovic didn't win at the first attempt, did he?
No, he lost his first attempt at the US Open in 07.
Yeah, right. But so, of course, we can now bring into the conversation, which is what we've all been waiting for, Andy Murray, because he's somebody, of course, that did sort of build up a few final losses in a row. I think it was 3 or 4 before he ended up getting the monkey off his back. 4. So, you know, he lost his first 4. I certainly remember one of those against Djokovic in Australia, and I'm sure there's several others that I'm missing right now, before he finally got the monkey off his back 10 years ago in that US Open final.
I think it was 1 Djokovic and 3 Federers.
Yeah, well, that's the problem that so many of these players have had, and something that Alcaraz didn't have, in terms of the fact that he ran into Casper Ruud in his first ever final. Not his fault, of course, but Casper Ruud first time ran into Nadal at Philippe Chatrier, but he did not run into Djokovic on a hard court for his second, for example. So, yeah, as I can see the two there on the podium are waiting to receive their winners and losses.
By the way, Tsitsipas has got the most match wins this year.
Oh, okay.
Shockingly.
Yeah, and in fact, I think it was Vanch and I were talking about Tsitsipas a few weeks ago, and Vanch this is before his first round exit, of course, in New York, and Vanch was convincingly putting up an argument that maybe Tsitsipas's previous 12 months hadn't been so bad. I was more on the side of things that since that French Open final defeat that really hadn't quite recovered. But yeah, Tsitsipas, well, maybe he's just somebody who, again, maybe is a bit like someone like Rublev, who just sort of pretty much signs up for every tournament available. Maybe he needs to reevaluate that plan, because it's not doing him any favors at slams, at least in terms of the results that are appearing then. You know, Tsitsipas, I don't remember a deep run of his, of course, since Australia when he got to the semi-finals and lost to Medvedev. He went out fairly early, or relatively early, at each of the 3 majors that have followed.
You're talking about Tsitsipas?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tsitsipas went out in third round at Wimbledon, I would say. First round
Yeah, I
here, and
think
also
fourth,
Yeah.
maybe the French.
third or fourth at the
Just
French.
this
Yeah.
year, yeah.
Yeah,
Fourth.
The last three,
Yeah.
fourth. But that's his strongest slam, and really, given how kind the draw was to people in that half, Tsitsipas would be ruining that run at the French Open, finishing so early. Was it Holger Rune he lost to?
Yeah.
yeah, it was. Yeah, so it
Yeah.
was.
Anyway, yeah, Jack, any additional thoughts?
Just I mean, just to close and Tsitsipas, loads of great Masters runs. To be fair, won Monte Carlo, semi-final in Madrid, final in Rome. He's done stuff, you know. And obviously,
he's done more than we have. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I do think that Monte Carlo was probably the Masters that sort of fell off the radar most, because I think Djokovic went out super early to Davidovich Fokina, and Nadal wasn't there, and Alcaraz went out super early as well. I think he went out either first or second round.
Yeah, he went to Corda.
So suddenly, you know, if Tsitsipas doesn't win that, well, what tournaments is he going to win, in my opinion? And even then, he made heavy work of it, I think, in both the semi-final and the final. But listen, maybe I'm just building a narrative regarding Tsitsipas because I'm so annoyed that he didn't win his first round here, because I had him to get to the final. In fact, I had him to win. Listen, back to today, though. That's what we're all here for. Carlos Alcaraz, 19 years old, world number one, youngest one ever, Isabel. This is going to be the first of many for the Spaniard, right?
Oh, yeah. Duh. Come on.
I heard Nick say 15, and that somehow seems about right, which just would be an
probably.
insane haul.
Barring some like crazy injury that knocks him out, you know, Del Potro style, I think, yeah, I would agree.
The one thing I would say is his game is super. It's so aggressive. I mean, he was close to going out. Obviously, it was a point away from going out. Keep that in mind in this tournament. If his game stays the same as it is, I don't know, 15 slams might be a stretch to consistently win 7 matches in a row against players.
Yeah, I don't seriously think 15. I just picked a random number.
Yeah, I know, but we know what you mean. It's going to be many, many, many. It's going to be 5, 10, 15 or something like that. We don't quite see him maybe winning the same as these unbelievable players that we've got in the present, but we do see it being several. It would be just insane to be otherwise. And in fact, of course, he's already won more than Zverev and Tsitsipas combined. So yeah. But then again, though, we've all won the same amount as Zverev and Tsitsipas combined. Us 4 legends, as I think
our peers, exactly. Our peers.
4, yeah, exactly. 4 very good-looking legends, according to one viewer today. I should say 5. Vanch, by the way, I can see his camera is on, but all I can see is his sofa. So I'm guessing he's not.
Do you want us to phone an ambulance? What's happened?
I can see his shoulder. As well, so that's now a paid interview, and once we see him more, then I'll bring him back in, because I'm sure he's got some thoughts to say. I can see Casper Ruud is talking right now. I know it's an emotional day for the Americans during this obviously this time. Obviously today being the 21st anniversary of 9/11, so he's highlighting that in his speech. Of course, that gets a round of applause. I'll share his thoughts as well on the match when he gets to those. At the moment, I've got the subtitles up, so I'm just watching that right now, and I'll share them as he's speaking to. Is it McKendry? Is that her name? Isabel, the lady who tends to do these on the court.
You got me.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
So I'll as we see someone in the crowd there wearing a USA sort of flag suit type thing. Anyway, go on, Jack.
Just not the greatest.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, yeah. So just a quick thing. So here's Rafael Nadal's tweet. Congratulations on your first Grand Slam, Carlitos or Carlos Alcaraz. He's atted him. And what's his name? To Primera Grand, your great season that I'm sure will be one of many more. Yeah, so what's the name there? Ruud touching on his great 2022 that he's had, and a special day and an evening, blah, 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 knew that what was at stake. He knew what was at stake, obviously, being a huge match for his second major of the year and the second major of his life. Yeah, I'm just trying to see what else he's got to say. So he's very disappointed. I'm sorry, I'm very disappointed, or I'm disappointed. that I am not number one, but number 2 is not bad either. So I'm happy with that number, and I'll continue to chase for that number 1 ranking. Yeah, a little bit sad, but he seems to have taken it pretty well. You know, I don't really expect much else. I don't expect too much emotion from it. I think it's his parents there. We all remember how he was in Roland Garros when he looked up to his father, I think, at some point during that third set with I just don't know what to do. But that was Rafa on Philippe Chatrier. Today was obviously Carlos Alcaraz, but at times maybe in that fourth set it was a similar sentiment from him, and it was quite difficult to know how he was going to overcome and recover that horrible tiebreak from him after losing that 7-1. He's obviously thanking his team throughout his career. The reason why I'm able to be here today was thanks to them. I hope we can continue to have a strong relationship and be a strong team in the future. His parents, they're smiling on, obviously very proud of his achievements, and more to come, they hope, from their son. Anyway, as he exits the stage, Vanch, I'll get you back in when you're ready. Just give me a wave or something when you've got the camera all ready. I think he's probably just paying attention to the speeches, so I look forward to having you back on board as as Carlos Ruud takes the plate and holds it up to the crowd, saying thanks to everyone. Yeah, Alcaraz is going to take his plate or his trophy, very shortly. Anything you want to add, Jack, to anything that's been going on?
No, just as always, pretty gracious words from Casper Ruud. Very likable guy. I liked him as a person before this tournament. I like him as a tennis player now. Post tournament, he's certainly a bit more exciting on court. I don't think it's a stretch to say that. He's a great guy, obviously off the court. So it was nice to see him say stuff like that. And yeah, he takes the loss well. He seems like he's in pretty decent spirits considering second slam loss.
Yeah.
About to hear from Carlos here, I think.
Yeah, we are. I think her name's Chris McKendry or someone McKendry. She's just remind him that he's a teenager and world number 1. He says, how does it feel to be 19 and obviously being the first person to do this as a teenager, getting to world number 1 and obviously winning your first major? First of all, I want to talk about today for everyone. I want to let you know that my thoughts are with you all, obviously on the 21st anniversary of 9/11 and this special day. So to speak. It is I'm just waiting for the subtitles to update. It's not easy to put into words. Obviously, I will remember this day with all of you. Okay, nice touching words there from Carlos on the 21st anniversary of the 11th of September attacks. Okay, looks like they're going to chat about obviously the final and the tennis. Grand achievement. He's reminded of, and to be number 1 and a Grand Slam champion. Like, how does it feel? Something I have dreamed of. To be number 1 in the world, to be champion, is something that I worked really hard for. I'm going to say this all his life, but it's 19 years. I mean that in a nice way, I mean, sometimes if it's Gael Monfils winning his first major and it's something he's worked for 35, 36 years, it's really emotional, and it is emotional. But yeah, I know. But bearing in mind, Carlos Alcaraz, I'm guessing, was born in 2003.
Yeah.
Maybe someone could check that out, but I'm just guessing.
Yes, 2003.
Yeah, 2003. I remember going to see Robbie Williams at Nebworth that year. And so he was born around that time. So good for him. Anyway, he's not mentioning Robbie Williams in his speech afterwards, although he's not finished yet. So he may well put in a word for the rock DJ performer. Anyway, what's he saying now? Here we go. Let's go back to him again. Tears, obviously apparent. What were you thinking? He says, my mum is not here, and my grandfather. I was thinking about them. Yes, we saw his father in the crowd, obviously amongst his team, but not his mother or his grandfather. All our families are here. All of the people. This is basically what he was thinking of at the point of winning the title. For my family, they couldn't come here to watch the final, so I was thinking about them at the point of obviously winning the title. His brother's there. I can see him. I have one more question for you. You played 3 5-set matches. 4 more today, almost 4 hours before the match. You said today, this is no time to be tired. Are you tired yet? I mean, yes, I am tired. There is no time to be tired, in the final round or in every tournament, you have to give everything. And something that I work really hard for on, and yeah, no time to be tired. He just can't believe it. I think we believe it because I think we've been seeing this coming at some point in his career. But I think all of us really just thought it wouldn't quite happen this year, particularly after he went out to Zverev. Is that right, Nick?
He didn't quite have. Yeah. I thought it was less likely after that Zverev loss, and especially after the run you were talking about, where he was having inexplicable losses. Not inexplicable, but kind of the Sinner ones didn't surprise me that much. Maybe the context of them did. The Musetti one surprised me a little bit. But
lost in Cincinnati to Hanya's favorite player, who, what's his name?
Tommy Paul.
Tommy Paul.
Tommy Paul.
I mean, it was a great performance.
I mean, that wasn't a bad loss either.
No.
He's not, honestly, he's not as great on clay as he is on hard courts. I think that's the biggest takeaway. Like, he struggles to hit through the court a lot of the time. Like that match against Musetti that he played, I think, in Hamburg, and the one in Umag that he played to Sinner, that was a lot of overheating, a lot of spraying from the back of the court. And obviously the French Open eventually lost that. And then Madrid, faster courts there. That's how he won there at high altitudes, and goes out in the first round of Monte Carlo. He's not. I don't think he's as good on a slow clay court as he is on a fast hard court.
Yeah, I think that's a good analysis.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, I saw him being one of the 3 people who were going to win it, and anyone other than him, Nadal or Medvedev, would have been a surprise.
So it was Tommy Paul, and I've just correct myself. It was Tommy Paul in Montreal. Actually, I think he lost to, right, and in Cincinnati he lost to Cam Norrie.
Norrie did,
revenging his loss. I think Cam Norrie lost to Alcaraz much earlier in the year. Maybe it was in Miami, if memory serves me correctly. One of 5 titles that he's won this year. He's won Rio, he's won Miami, he's won Madrid. He's now won the US Open here in New York, because he holds the trophy aloft. And I'm missing a title that he's obviously won somewhere along the line.
I forget what that is.
Maybe it was another clay court tournament I'm missing. Obviously, he won Madrid and he won Rio.
Barcelona?
Yeah, he won Barcelona.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, yeah. Okay, listen, I think it's time to sort of bring this stream to an end, and obviously that's the final major of the year. Any final thoughts from you, Nick? I'll go Nick, Isabel, and then Jack. Basically, just any final thoughts on today's final, yesterday's final, and the tournament as a whole.
Well, before I give my final thoughts, I think I need to honour the requests that have been made in the live chat and by Isabel, because they clearly want to see what's going on underneath here. So there you go.
There we go. We got the T-shirt out. I'm sure. Was it Scott? Was it? No, Jethro was asking for it.
Yeah. I made the foolish mistake of telling them I'm wearing a Disney T-shirt underneath. If you know what the movie is, great. But I'm a man of my word, everyone, and they've been shouting at me on the live chat and the WhatsApp chat to see what I'm wearing, to see what I was wearing underneath my shirt. So I wanted to get that out of the way before the stream ended and disappointed a bunch of people. So Jethro, Isabel, Ashley, I hope you're happy. On a more serious note, by the way, sorry, Isabel, I think I've completely outsluttered you there. On a serious point,
you can have my title for a day.
I'll take the handle. On a serious point, in many ways, the men's final and the women's final were pretty similar, in that you had some players in there who we thought could win, but weren't expecting to. It was Swiatek and Alcaraz, and we put other players ahead of them because we thought they might struggle in this tournament, and they ended up beating players in the final.
I had Iga. But yeah, I know what you mean. There's a lot of doubts regarding both players, I would suggest, beforehand.
There were a lot of doubts, yeah. And with they were both ended up beating players in those finals who had been to major finals before and perhaps needed to make the most of their second opportunity. But it's been a very fun US Open. This was a very good final. I really enjoyed it. It was a really good quality match. Maybe not a classic, but it wasn't boring. It wasn't straightforward. And at the end of the day, it came down to a really poor third set tiebreak from Casper Ruud. And that's probably what swung it in the end. Other than Alcaraz being brilliant for a lot on the big points in the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my actual serious moments that I will leave you with.
That's great, Nick, and I think we'd all agree with that. Isabel, any final thoughts from you, either on today's match or the tournament as a whole, both on the women's and the men's side?
I think it's been a really one of the best tournaments across the board that we've had in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many matches on the men's side that felt like finals. Almost every single one after the fourth round had the energy of a final.
Yeah.
And I'm almost tired out from all of it. But it's been a really on both sides. It's been incredibly enjoyable. I don't think I've ever had this much fun watching one tournament. So good end to the season.
If and I'm sure he's already tuned in. If Carlos Alcaraz is already tuned in to this live stream, and I'm sure he's one of our viewers, he will be thinking, "You guys feel a bit tired. Imagine how I feel. I'm the one who's playing tennis for 5 hours until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning." I mean, I did see him tweet, by the way, a couple of days ago. He said, "Good morning, everyone," and I think it was a picture of him strewn on the court after it might have been the Sinner win, and it was like 12:30. And I thought, that's kind of cool, because I want to think he got up at midday. I don't want to hear him, jogging around, I don't want to hear about him jogging around the park at 8 in the morning after coming off the court. I want him to be a teenager, and getting up at lunchtime is exactly how I think teenagers should be doing, whether they're playing the US Open or they're studying or whatever they're doing.
Wow, I'm still a teenager then. That's great.
Oh, by the way, I'm still a teenager in that respect too. Listen, Jack, what are your final thoughts, either on the tournament as a whole, or either the two finals, or just anything?
Yeah, I kind of share the same thoughts as Isabel. I'm pretty knackered. I gotta say, the sleeping schedule has been completely destroyed. If there was one closing thought from this tournament, it's that the Sinner Alcaraz match has made me. It's made me think about tennis in a different light. There was this enlightening moment at the end of the fifth set where I was like, I can't even analyze this anymore. It's just like transcended normal logic. It was fantastic, and that's my takeaway. It was just absolutely great. That match has had a lasting effect on me, so I loved it. The finals were good, yeah, not legendary, of course, but yeah, they were still decent. But yeah, just that match. If you've not seen it, go watch it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Mike there in the chat, by the way, just saying it's not quite a changing of the guard yet until you beat the GOATs. And I think we'd all probably just hold fire a little bit on any suggestions of the change of the guard just yet. We'll see how, obviously, with Djokovic's, best slam, so to speak, is the Australian, and Nadal's obviously the French. They are the next two slams, but both feel quite a way away. And I do think this is the day for Carlos Alcaraz, and of course, Iga yesterday to celebrate. I think I might have Vanch back. So I think it's a good time for you three to say goodbye. And I will bring Vanch back in, and Vanch and I will just have a quick chat for a few minutes. But listen, you guys, what is it, 10 past 1 in the morning or 10 past 2? 10 past 1.
Yeah, 10 past 1.
And as Jack has said, it's been a fairly long and tiring tournament. So I'm going to let you three go, and have a good evening, people. I'm going to talk to Vanch. But thanks very much for your work over the last 2 weeks, and long may it continue.
Thanks, John.
Take care,
Thanks, John. It's been great fun.
Yep. See you, everyone.
See you later.
See you, Jack. Thanks very much. Vanch.
Hello, John. Hello. How are you?
I'm good. So it's just you and me for the next sort of couple of minutes as we bring this tournament to a close, so to speak. Any final thoughts on the final itself today between Carlos and Casper?
Yeah, it was a good one. I really enjoyed it. I thought Casper played a big part. He was, for his second major final, I felt like he was well prepared going into this. He believed. He certainly had more steeliness And I think a little bit in the French Open, it was a really big moment for him, and he was, pretty happy to get there and play against Nadal. Obviously, both of them went from the Rafa Academy, and there was a lot of that, and he got his first taste. And I feel like this time, he really had maybe one chance, and that was just at the end of the third set. And once that was sniffed away from Carlos, um, snipped away by Carlos, some great net play, and obviously a tie break that Ruud might want a few points back. But I really just felt like in the fourth set, Carlos really elevated his game and especially his serving, and I think that really helped get him over the line because if there was any sort of nerves or any sort of tension, we couldn't really tell, and that's because he was serving so well.
Yeah.
You mentioned the aces, but obviously just the fact that he was able to do it in the last 3 or 4 service games and get like 7 or 8 just cheap points, and where returns
Absolutely.
just weren't coming back. I thought that was huge.
I mean, he even won the match with an unreturnable that was,
Yeah.
as effective as an ace, of course, because you win the point. And in fact, if he was nervous in the last game or two, or particularly the last game, it was actually midpoint. It was during the rally when
Yeah.
he made a couple of bizarre errors. I think one was a smash, and I forget what the other one was, which brought up 34 Ruud. But he was just bailed out by his serve, which is not actually not bailed out. That's just an example of just how calm he was in that final set.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think, though, for Ruud, or even the match as a whole, it's all about a 10-minute, 15-minute period. It was the epic final game of that, or the 6-5 game at the end of the third set, where there were 2 break points. I don't know how many juices. It lasted over 10 minutes. But that's the moment when the match finally sort of swung and very much in favor of Carlos Alcaraz. He then carries on a bit of momentum into the tiebreak, where Casper Ruud was just for 5 minutes was just a different player compared to the rest of the entire tournament, I would argue. And for some reason, his forehand went AWOL. There was a shank. There was a couple of other bizarre things, which I guess it was tension. Was it, Vance, do you think?
Yeah, definitely feeling the tension. And I think Carlos did a few things that surprised him as well with a really, really deep return position. I mean, running around his backhand return. Carlos, I think he really knuckled down in that tiebreak. Took advantage of those errors by Ruud. And some of those weak technical issues for Ruud, they somewhat surface a little bit again in those pressure situations in the tiebreak. The backhand shank, not quite timing it as well as he was the whole match. Maybe in those little footwork, small adjustment steps to get around the backhand, they weren't quite working as well. But that's understandable, obviously.
One final point actually on the match point. Kind of interesting. I just started to say it, but it was probably a bit too late because the point was obviously over with very quickly. Is I was like, oh, hang on a second, look at Casper Ruud's return position. Check out his return position on the first and only serve on that match point. He's actually quite close. He's actually much closer to the baseline. And I don't know if, of course, it became an unreturnable, so I'm sure he's thinking, damn, I should have stayed back as I had been throughout the match. But maybe he was starting to think about mixing up his return position because it hadn't really been very effective, particularly in that fourth set in terms of the number of balls that were flying past him. But listen, ifs, buts, and maybes, Carlos Alcaraz was the better player today and just the best player in the tournament throughout. I mean, I know he had all those 5-set matches that led into the final, if you like, but he had a much tougher run, I would suggest, than most other players, obviously running into Sinner in the quarterfinals. And I would even say Tiafoe is a much more difficult proposition in New York than, for example, Khachanov would have been for Casper Ruud. So, best player in the world number 1, youngest ever to reach that stage. What do you think? What does that mean in the grander scheme of things, Vance?
I think it's pretty big. He's now has the world number 1. He doesn't have a whole lot of points to defend for the rest of the year. Australian Open, he only reached the 3rd round. He can definitely make some ground there. Roland Garros and Wimbledon as well. There's also room for progress there. And overall, like he was the best player in this tournament. Like it's one of the most Herculean efforts I've ever seen. He spent almost 24 hours on court in 7 matches. That is unheard of. It doesn't matter how old you are. That is by far like just superhuman stuff. And he was even down a break in the 5th set against Cilic, and he was down. And so it could have ended for him right there. And match points down against Sinner, down a break in the 5th against Sinner. All sorts of trouble. Didn't win the tie breaks. And each and every single time he just keeps going for it, and he's just so hard to put away. And and when he really needs it, that just the overwhelming aggression and the tactical fortitude this guy has, and knowing when to play what shot at the right times, and then being so self-assured about it. You see him win a point, and he almost looks to his box like, "Yeah, I know, I'm good. I'm really, really good." And it's not
Yeah.
in sort of like an arrogant or cocky way. It's more
No.
just like
It's
really
cute.
just
It's funny. I mean, I remember. I think it might have been one of the sets that he sealed against TFO where he just looks to his box and sort of nods his head, and it's just it's a great celebration. It's a different celebration. Yeah, it might come across as being a bit nonchalant, but it's just funny and just how he feels in the moment. I think
it is
one
awesome.
thing
And
with
the
him is
interaction between him and Ferrero and the bond that they seem to have, and the way they can
agree.
connect on so many levels, just emotionally, and just Ferrero having been there and been in so many situations like that. I think just deep down it makes Carlos a lot stronger because he could easily just look to his box and ask for tips and suggestions and tactics here and there, but and when he does ask for them, then Juan Carlos is like, no, you figure it out,
Yeah. There was
you got
one
this. And
exchange. I forget which round it was. It might have been against Sinner. All these 5-set matches kind of all merge into one at some point. But there was one point when he kind of did look to his box for some help, and I forget what Ferrero's reaction was, but it was like, you go figure it out."
yeah, you figure it out yourself,
Yeah, right.
you're good
Um,
enough. And
there's a broader discussion to be had another day about on-court coaching. I just personally would rather not have it I mean, I don't
same.
mind a little bit, like a little bit of encouragement, a few claps is fine. But I think you and I are fairly much on the same page there, Vach. Hey, listen, I'm going to bring this to a close, but thanks very much for your work over the last 2 weeks. It's been another epic US Open. I think it's up there with last year's. Last year's was epic, particularly on the women's side, but also we had the whole Djokovic narrative a year ago. It's a year on. We've got a very different narrative and obviously a very different world number one. Vanch, thanks very much for coming on board again today, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. I really enjoyed these last 2 weeks speaking to you and the rest of the team here and talking tennis, and it was an absolute pleasure. Love this US Open, and it'll go down in my memory books as one of my all-time favorites.
Mine too. Thanks very much, Vanch, and thanks very much for stopping by, everyone. See you soon.